And we're live. So, how's everyone doing today?
Doing good.
Good.
I'm excellent.
Word.
Never better.
Glad to hear it, because we got a lot to talk about with the abductables. Hopefully, Canales will be able to make it. He's got the link, but at the same time, he might have fallen asleep because, it is the middle of the night there in Spain.
Maybe he
These
got
things do.
abducted.
Yes, he got abducted by the abductables. Tune in next week to find out the grand conclusion of the abductables and Ibai Canales.
Dang, we got to
If
get you to
Canales,
do the audiobook.
if Canales gets abducted by aliens, I would not want to mess with those aliens.
Dude, they'd probably be like, because this is Canales. They'd probably be like, take us to your leader. No, you don't want me to do that. We have bad governments here. Just stay in outer space. Maybe abduct a few people, get them off planet. Just be careful. Choose wisely. Choose like me, for instance. You want me? I'm a strong masked man. I'm a good masked man. I am probably doing Canales' personality a little too well.
Well, rumor has it he based the big muscly guy from the abductables on himself. So I think
That's great. All right. Well, I've kind of felt being the fact that, if I remember right, the first time you talked about the abductables was on a meeting of the minds. We had to get you on a meeting of the minds to talk about the abductables while the crowdfunding is going.
yeah, absolutely. Your show was the first live stream I ever did, so I had to come back. It's kind of full circle. Actually, I don't even know if the abductables was a thing before, like when I was on the first time way back when. It's certainly the idea was around, but I don't know if I had already started working with Canales at that point. So, because that was a while ago.
It had not. It wasn't until the second time you came on Meeting of Minds. That's when you mentioned it and everything. You were talking about how you had Canales as your artist and everything. And I told you then, when you start crowdfunding it, you're going to have to come on.
Hell yeah, man. It's good to be back and very, very exciting. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I think the first time I heard Canales' awesome Spanish accent was on your show as well. Just because I know he's been on your show a few times, and I think I listened to him on one of his appearances on Meeting of the Minds. So it's all connected.
Yes, that's right, America. Everything comes back to Bob Jones.
Meeting of the minds. So
exactly where the brightest of the bright comes to talk about comic books, talk about politics, and talk about fighting the reticuloids in the soy.
They got to get you on Joe Rogan now.
Oh God, can I imagine him and Eddie Bravo together? Oh my God.
I still haven't watched the whole thing. I saw some of the clips, and it was just, I really got to just sit down and watch all 3 hours of that epicness.
Oh, dude, you and me both. Like,
yeah, I actually just finished that episode with Alex Jones and Eddie Bravo, the newest one, and dear God, my brain was like fried after that one.
Oh man,
because he is all over the place.
Yeah, he was in rare form from what I could tell. So
nice,
a very entertaining guy.
See, and that's one of the things you got to like about this format is you can, man, imagine if I had the ability to get us all together in a legit studio the way Joe Rogan does, and we could actually talk about these things in person, whatnot. Oh, I believe half of the guests on the Meeting of the Minds would be, they'd be animated just for the lulz, just because they could be.
Instant memes.
It's all about the memes. And it's funny because I got friends of mine who are like, you constantly talk about memes and whatnot. It's like, well, memes drive the culture. It's far back as you can look. There's always been I guess you could say, a form of memes. It's just how it was delivered was far different than what it is now. Where now, because of internet and things like that, the ability for for individuals to do a live stream and be able to make jokes that can transcend the initial conversation that was there. So, for instance, we were doing the final push for Jack Irons, his original Indiegogo, and the whole birth of the Jack Irons joke, and the meme there. It's like, who can handle taking over Space Force? Jack Irons.
That was also on my first meeting of the minds.
There you go.
I'm just saying.
All the good stuff happens on meeting of the minds.
Oh yeah, because I am that awesome. Yes, we'll go with that. I'm that awesome. If you can't hear the sarcasm, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but not catching sarcasm isn't one.
And
maybe you're being sarcastic. But...
Say that again.
I said enough people don't come on here. We need to get more people need to be getting on these projects, getting them out there and stuff like that. I was talking with somebody the other night, that's why I'm glad to see Michael back on here. These people are putting their projects out. I have no clue who they are, because they're not coming on to people's shows anymore.
Well, let's just say certain parties who will not be named, pure and simple, have made it to where a lot of people are very reprehensive about coming on live streams because this very vocal group of individuals who are Star Wars fans, not comic fans, like to go into the chats of these live streams, stir up trouble, and then try to be like, but I didn't do nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. That type of deal. And so creators are a little iffy about doing it. Let's just be honest. And it's on.
When you say crazy Star Wars fans, I think of the Fandominists.
Well, yeah. Well, it's not so much the fandom. We're not going to go into it because, quite frankly, like I said, I'm not giving them a platform. That's not my thing.
I think everybody's hashtag Fandominist by default, though.
Yeah, you got a point because.
At the very least, I think we can all be united on how much we hate The Last Jedi.
That's very true. And it's funny you mentioned that because I was watching John Talks earlier, and he was talking about Captain Marvel and another video that was basically a clip from Entertainment Tonight Canada, where the two hosts are talking about the movie, and one of the hosts is being honest about it. He's like, no, the people who are having complaints about this are not trolls. They are disenfranchised fans who feel like Brie Larson is coming out and making comments about specifically them and how she doesn't want them at the table and so on and so forth, or how she wants her press circuit with less of this specific group. And well, let's be honest, a good chunk of the fan base, especially here in America, is straight white males. I'm just saying.
I'm sure that guy got in trouble for saying that. For
probably
saying the truth. Yeah.
Because, you stepped outside of the echo chamber.
Yeah, I'm sure he had to come out afterwards and apologize for his horrible opinion.
His transgressions against intersectionality. But, all right. I guess time to get to the meat of the matter. Tell us about the abductables.
Yeah, so...
what's going on?
The abductables, it's my Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign with Mr. Ibai Canales. It's a 52-page comic book, graphic novel, if you will. It's a sci-fi action comedy about what happens when aliens abduct the wrong man and pay the price. I like to say it's imagine if aliens abducted Arnold Schwarzenegger from Commando. Uh, and that ends exactly as you would expect with this big, muscly guy beating the crap out of little gray aliens for 52 pages. And a lot of over-the-top violence, a lot of very, very comedic, and just a lot of fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's just, very entertaining. So I hope people check it out. We just... Today, we just hit 50%, so we're officially halfway there, which is very exciting. We launched a little over a week ago, so I think we're moving along at a pretty good pace, but, we still need help, and we still got a long ways to go. So I'm hoping people come out and back the book. And, how could you say no to that awesome Canales artwork, right?
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, 100%. One thing I got to say here, Mike, is you guys are actually sitting at a very good spot. I mean, 8 days and you raised over half your campaign. That's pretty good.
Yeah, we raised a lot in that first day, and things slowed down a little bit. But like you said, yeah, we're moving at a pretty good rate, and yeah, I can't complain because halfway there, and we're not even halfway through the campaign, so that's doing pretty good, I think.
Oh yeah, I think you'll see fully funded. I mean, it's basically as bad as it sounds. By the sounds of it, it is a '80s action movie in comic book form.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that our main character, who we affectionately dub the abductee, he's kind of a mix between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dolph Lundgren, and basically every other 80s action hero you can think of. Someone on another live stream compared him to Brock Sampson from the Venture Brothers, and I thought that was a pretty good comparison. He's just this big, mean guy that he's a man of few words, but when he does talk, he's often prone to saying great one-liners as he's killing people. So look forward to some puns and some probe jokes and some great one-liners from the abductee.
Oh yeah. Like and let's be honest, if you're with what you're trying to, the energy, the creative energy, man, that you're trying to convey in this character is he's just too high T, man. He's too high T for most people to be able to handle. It's just too much, man. Too much.
Well,
when did the snob critic come in?
What's that?
When did the snob critic come in?
Well, come on, that's exactly what the anti-comics gate and the comics haters in general that like Carl Manvers but hate Carol Danvers. That's exactly what they're gonna say. They're gonna be like, "It's too much, man. You just need to pull it back. He needs to embrace the inner femininity, man."
Well, they're not wrong, because I mean, the abductee, he was pretty much designed to be as over the top, and because really he's the polar opposite of a gray alien. He's big, muscular, and just put him up next to a gray, and it's basically the complete opposite. So I think it makes a nice contrast when you see him running through the ship, just kicking ass.
Taking names,
yeah,
doing bubble gum,
and he's all out of bubble gum.
Exactly.
There's no bubble gum in space.
Exactly. I really do, really do need to see that movie. Like, I have never seen that movie. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know what? I haven't seen it in years. I'm due for a rewatch because there's so many great memes from that movie. It's I think it's becoming more of a cult classic now than ever, like just because people reference it so much. And obviously, with
Roddy Piper's death a couple years ago and everything.
Yeah, with that, and it just a lot of the themes of the movie with the I don't even remember the plot really, but you know, there's like the creatures that are taking over. It's kind of got a Invasion of the Body Snatchers vibe going on, where you don't know who's human or whatever. But yeah, that's a classic for sure.
Yep, and and that's once again that's the I take it the vibe you're trying to go for is that over the top ultra violence, very tongue in cheek
Yes.
humor. You know,
Yeah. It's a shame. I don't know if it would ever be adapted into a film, but if it was, I feel like it would have to be John Carpenter. Would have to get a time machine and get '80s John Carpenter to direct the film, because he kind of, his movies kind of embody the tone. Like uh, he's great at action comedy, like Escape from New York, Escape from LA, that type of thing, or even Big Trouble in Little China, that kind of thing. So,
another one I need to see.
oh yeah,
You have never seen Big Trouble in Little China?
Nope.
I'm very disappointed.
Wait a minute.
You need to hand in your geek card. Seriously.
Exactly.
It's one of those. One, I've never found a copy, and because of how good I've heard it to be, and how many people have said I need to watch this, watch it. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna pirate it. I'm not gonna find it online just because, knowing my luck, I'd get a shit. Okay, I stopped pirating shows that I desperately want to see or need to see after the Justice League Brave New Frontier. I had downloaded it, and like half the movie, because of bad encode, turned out to be basically black and white with really subpar audio in a lot of areas. So I don't bother doing that anymore.
I mean, I don't know what streaming services you have, but I feel like Big Trouble in Little China is on one of them. It has to be.
I think it's on Netflix.
It is on
Yeah.
Netflix? All right,
Yeah.
I got access to Netflix.
Yeah, I rewatched it like a year ago on one of those streaming sites. So, didn't John Carpenter directed They Live too, right?
Yes.
Man, he's got so many classic movies. That guy does not get enough credit for his freaking awesome career. I love John Carpenter.
And
You can't go wrong
comic
with
book anthology out.
Oh yeah.
But the sad thing about Big Trouble in Little China is that it was the movie that got John Carpenter out of. I really burnt him out for a while because of his fights with. He had a big fight with the Writers Guild over the writer creds, because he brought it. It was originally pitched by these two guys who got credited for the movie, but it was so substantially rewritten that he wanted to give the other writer the credit and give those other guys story credit. Story by credits. They fought it. Writers Guild said, no, you have to give it to these guys. And Carpenter just said, I'm done for a while.
Wow. Freaking Hollywood, man. Wow.
Oh, and see, this is just another example of politics in the entertainment industry where it doesn't need to be. And that's, once again, to bring this back to the abductables and, the crowdfunding that you got going on right now. It's about being able to break away from that politically driven environment and being able to, you know what I mean, put the power back in the hands of the creators, because quite frankly, that's what makes indies so awesome, is the fact that it's like, you know what, I got this comic, I'm going to spread it out to the world. It may not get out there the way a Superman, a Batman, or whatnot does, but if it is that good, enough people will see it, and enough fans will be like, yeah, no, there's been a few indie comics where I know for a fact people have been like, wait, that was an indie comic? Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the way of the future, this crowdfunding, because at the very least, if not crowdfunding, then any form of just selling directly to the customer, and without any company acting as a middleman. I think that's definitely the way things are headed, which can only be positive because less gatekeepers, less red tape, and people can get their ideas out there and get them straight to people who are interested in them.
Exactly. I mean, let's take for instance. I mean, I don't think this is going to happen, but let's take for instance one of the biggest indie that became a cultural phenomenon, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, exactly.
That started out as an indie, and hopefully the Abductables get similar treatment. I mean, I'm not saying.
Yeah,
It'll
that's always
happen.
the hope, but yeah, you never know. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is an interesting case because, yeah, it was an indie black and white comic book made by two guys. It was basically a Frank Miller parody, and and all of a sudden it took off and took on a life of its own that nobody could have imagined. So you never know what idea is going to resonate with people and go
Definitely.
viral.
Well, and the other thing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too, it was also a slight fanfic to the Marvel universe. Because the whole and my best friend actually didn't know this, Eric, that the ooze that transformed the turtles is the same stuff that blinded Matt Murdock.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So yeah, so it was like the whole book is basically a Daredevil parody. You got the Foot Clan.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
which is their version of the Hand.
Yeah.
I'm just, but for me, the big reason why I think Turtles got as big as it was is because I think it's Peter Laird and
Kevin Eastman.
Thank you. I could remember Peter Laird. I couldn't remember his name. But the thing is that they were smart. When they had the opportunity to option it for television, they had the opportunity. They were pretty much told, hey, if you make it kid-friendly, you'll make a fuck ton of money. They made it kid-friendly, and those guys have long since been set for life. Long since.
Yeah, that's and that's just not something that you could plan for. It really was just lightning in a bottle. Just the right combination of things at the right time. And man, that's
that it wouldn't work today. Let's just be honest. The SJWs would be out there screeching about my cultural appropriation.
Speaking of, and to take it back to a movie that you've never watched, Big Trouble in Little China wouldn't be made because they'd be so upset over a white guy being the lead character, despite the fact that he's the sidekick.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Asian appropriation in that movie for sure.
From what I heard, the original script was even worse. It was set in the Wild West, and it was just so blatantly racist that John Carpenter had.
Oh man,
was the reason why John Carpenter had rewritten?
Well, I know they're working on a remake with The Rock, or is that still going to happen? Or is that
please, God, no.
Yeah, that should be a incredibly woke experience.
I don't know. I think if there's anyone who can do Jack Burton today, it'd either be The Rock or Chris Pratt.
Oh, so here they say that it is going to be a sequel. It is not going to be a reboot.
Okay.
But it is The Rock.
Yep.
Okay, so it's like set in the universe, but
so they're not Ghostbusters 2016 yet.
Pretty much.
Damn, if they're gonna do an actual sequel, why not just get what's his name on there?
Kurt Russell again?
Kurt Russell.
I don't think he wants to do it.
Okay. Yeah, he's too busy making cowboy movies.
Well, he's also so rich from his investments that he's set for life. He only gets to do what he wants to do.
Yeah, and he's got that sweet beard going on, so he really only wants to do movies that let him have that beard.
Well, not to mention, I mean, come on. He's
I mean, he really does only do like westerns now. Like he's been in like 3 different westerns. He's like basically playing the same character in all of them.
Well, my whole thought when it comes to Kurt Russell is the fact that he's one of the few actors that hasn't lost his damn mind in the age of Trump. Let's just be honest. He's one of the few. It's like he's one of the ones in there. Calm the fuck down, you goddamn pansy. He's just he's just the president. He's not a dictator. He's not any of that. What the hell are you talking about? Chill the hell out. Like he went on The View and pushed back against them.
Yeah, I feel bad for Zoe Saldana's career because she probably killed it the moment she said that Hollywood was responsible for Trump.
Oh, wow.
Who was that?
Zoe Saldana.
Oh, well, they are responsible for Trump, so...
They really are.
And Jeff Bridges says that he doesn't want Trump to fail.
Well, and it's funny.
Wow.
It's funny you mentioned that because let's be honest, it's like the whole quote-unquote revelation that, James Gunn is once again directing the third Guardians of the Galaxy. Dun, dun, dun. Did any of us really think he wasn't going to be?
Yeah.
Let's just be.
I mean, I was surprised.
Yeah, remember?
I mean, I'm definitely part of the. I definitely believe that there's truth to that. The conspiracy theory that they brought him back to hide the fact that Captain Marvel is a big sham, but. Whether or not they knew all along that he was going to come back, or whether they just like called an audible, like, okay, people are figuring out that we're buying tickets to fill theaters for Captain Marvel. Let's break some news and get James Gunn back. I don't know,
right?
But
it's just kind of it's funny because you could see that they're doing everything they can to make Captain Marvel this woke film, and even then they're still not like. Last I checked, the numbers for Captain Marvel is it's not going to make the break-even number of 750. Like 750 million. Like it's only sitting at, even with the current week sales, it's only sitting at about 550 in sales, and it took it did a Last Jedi in second week of viewing, like immediately
huge
after.
drop off.
Well, latest update, I think in 200 million United States, 600 million worldwide.
Well, I mean, it's funny because Hollywood is all about the Chinese market now. That's where the big money is. Like, you really think the Chinese want to watch Captain Marvel? They're gonna laugh at it. It's a joke.
Well, it's not gonna have the negative reception that The Last Jedi did, or any Star Wars film, because for one thing, they're not trying to blatantly try to sell them on Asian characters, and despite what you might think of Brie Larson, she is an attractive woman. So they're going to. That was one of the problems with Last Jedi was the Chinese said there's not enough attractive people in it.
Well, the Chinese also have a term for people like Brie Larson. Remember, right? It's the white left.
Baizo.
Like the Oh, we got a ninja.
Hey, ninja.
Hey,
how's it going, gentlemen?
We're good.
But no, it's basically they're specifically talking about white far left progressives like Brie Larson, like the people who got mad about the one high school girl that was going to wear the one Chinese dress to her prom. Like all the white progressive types got all upset about it and everything. And from what I heard about what people in China actually thought, they were like, whatever. They don't care.
It's bad when China is calling us out for stuff like that, when they've got their social credit system and they're basically a weird form of communist capitalists. Like if they're calling us out, we're in trouble.
Ain't that the truth?
Mm-hmm.
But
what's funny is so we're talking about China. Guess what is the #1 movie right now this year?
Huh. Aquaman?
No, The Wandering Earth, released by a Chinese film company. It's made $692 million. Captain Marvel's sitting at $594 million.
So I was right.
So a film actually getting beat out by an American film, actually getting beat out by a Chinese film. Well, now that's also based off of a fairly well known book too. So in China, so it doesn't surprise me.
I'm checking it out right now on Wikipedia because I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah, it's called The Wandering Earth.
I'm all just off of the first line off of this. I'm like, this got my attention. I'm like, okay, so future sci-fi. Okay, that's I'm game. I'm game. It probably is a hell of a lot better watched than Captain Marvel anyway. Like I'm not gonna lie. If I do end up watching that movie, it'll probably be I watch it on something like, oh, what's the hell the name of the service, like Popcorn Time or something? Like technically a pirating site that you can stream the movies off of. Like I will. I'm sorry, but no, you're not getting money from me. If I watch your movie, I'm going to watch it in the most disrespectful way possible.
Well, they did say they don't want our money, so they can't complain, right?
We're just obliging them what they want.
I just watch it with Riff Tricks.
Oh God, they probably roasted that movie.
Let's see. Last Jedi, they point out all of the blatant merchandising attempts.
That does not surprise me. That does not surprise me at all.
Hashtag Borgs.
Yep.
Oh God. and like, since we're on the subject, may I say that Disney is really showing their galaxy brain right now with they're not just taking the MCU down the same path that the Star Wars franchise got taken down, where nobody wants, let's be honest, Solo. And y'all know Episode 9 ain't going to see that money either. Like, no, they can release whatever Star Wars movies they want. It's not going to make the money that The Force Awakens did. Why? Because when you make a movie that is very much a love letter to the original trilogy that The Force Awakens in many ways was meant to be, as well as trying to be its own thing, and then you turn around and shat all over them with The Last Jedi, which I still have yet to watch. It's still in my room, and I'm looking at it right now like I can't. I need to see it so I can finally stop having a secondhand opinion on this movie.
Are you like a big Star Wars fan or a casual Star Wars fan?
I'm a Star Trek guy. I'm a Star Trek guy.
Yeah.
But like most Star Trek people, I will still watch the Star Wars. The original trilogy is awesome. I'm not going to sit there and argue that. Like when I come up against the Tolkien people that talk about the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I'm like, motherfucker, there's only one original trilogy.
Give them the Clerks 2 speech.
Yep. It's like, nope, fuck you. There's only one original trilogy. The prequel trilogy. It's sad when The Last Jedi makes the prequel trilogy look like a cinematic masterpiece. I'm just saying.
You know, I've rewatched the prequel trilogy. I've seen how solely good it could be sometimes.
Yeah, I think George Lucas, old George Lucas in those films. I think what the problem was with the prequels is he was surrounded by yes people. There was nobody to rein him in like there was on, 4, 5, and 6.
Nope.
Yeah, if you just watch the prequels as just like sci-fi movies, they're not that bad. It's just they don't don't match the tone of the original trilogy. So it's very it feels disconnected from the style of the original movies. It just doesn't feel like it's in the same universe almost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but like the other thing that I find comical, if you will, about the if you will, Duskquill is saying it's actually that is a misconception. It's been disproven a shitload of times. Lucas was not surrounded by yes men. Just to
For the prequels?
yes, that's what he's saying. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not a big Star Wars fan.
I don't know. I mean, some of the behind the scenes documentaries about the prequels, I mean,
Well,
whew.
I think if you're employed by him, you might have to say some nice things.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there is some truth to people being afraid to tell George, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Right. And since we're talking about Star Wars, and Matt and I are Star Trek guys. I'm just saying.
Hey, I'm a Star Trek fan too. I'm not a equal. I don't fight in the war. I love both universes. They're both excellent.
See, I've never been a real Star Trek guy. From what I hear, like the current show, Discovery, is that the Star Trek's version of The Last Jedi? Like, it's that bad?
Well, from what I've been seeing from reviews, is that it started off really bad, but starting to get good.
Oh,
you're talking about Discovery?
Yeah, according to Diversity in Comics, season 2 is when whiskey is optional.
No.
It goes from mandatory to optional.
Yeah, but keep in mind, DNC also has a kind of horrible taste when it comes to movie and television.
True.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Comic-wise, he's great, but movies,
Does his horrible opinions on movies, does that carry over to TV as well?
Oh, no, not gonna try to find out. But
no. Well, man, like the big thing is I'm sorry, tardigrades. There's no amount of basically no amount of we're getting better, we're doing better with the storytelling, we're so on and so forth. No, guess what? You're not getting me to come back. Why? Because one, you just delivered a subpar product that you were saying is supposed to be the greatest, the next best thing in the Star Trek franchise, and then it shats all over what Star Trek is supposed to be with, let's be honest, Mika Burton's character just being all like, yeah, well, I know better than everybody. I know what I'm doing. I'm so woke.
Actually, it's Michael Burnham. Because Brian Fuller has a whole thing with taking female characters and giving them male names.
Oh my god!
This is on Discovery.
Yep.
And
yeah, so it's it's pretty woke, huh?
She's Spock's sister.
Well, like the thing that prime example. Okay, this movie is supposed to take place 10 years before the original series, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And in the original series episode where with Lincoln, you have Lincoln say something along the lines to Uhura, where he's like something like the noble negress or something like that, and she gives him a look. He's like, and he's like, "I'm sorry, is that offensive? Is that no longer a proper term?" She's like, then she just goes, "Well, no, it's just I'm not familiar with that term. We didn't talk about how they had moved past such labels, and it's just they're human. That's all that matters." And but then you look at Discovery, and it's like, oh well, you have to have all these diversity check boxes, and before you're taken seriously on that show. And woe and behold, were we going to make men look stupid in this show and make the women's look good while stealing somebody else's idea, because that's all we know how to do is steal other people's ideas for our cause of the wokeness.
The main ship is even a ripoff of the concept for an Enterprise redesign.
Why am I not surprised?
In fact, you could actually see that design in the Next Generation as a destroyed ship. And based on concept art for the motion picture, the Klingons in Discovery are based off of that too. So they seem to love taking unused concepts.
Here's the other thing.
Well, at
How can
least
you
they're
have?
being true to form or something.
Yeah, it's true. My big issue that I have with like Enterprise and Discovery, like, why are these ships actually more advanced than the actual original Enterprise?
They're not. They're actually not. The NX-01, the Enterprise in Enterprise, it doesn't have shields. It has like I think it only has like one or two, not even full blown phasers. They're like basically like the precursor to phasers. They do have torpedoes, but only like 4 torpedo bays compared to the several that the the 1701 had. It also what it did have though was like I think it was like a polarized plating or something like that to make up for the fact that it didn't have a shield. But even that was still weaker than the standard hull of the original series Enterprise.
Yeah.
It also was incredibly smaller. It could only get up to like warp 5. Pushing it in the first episode, they talk about how getting it up to warp 5 was causing the ship to they needed to reinforce certain areas of the ship because it could not handle going that fast.
Yeah, I didn't. After Next Generation and DS9 and what name were done, I didn't watch any of the other ones. So,
Well,
the Rick Berman series.
at least with Enterprise, they're trying to be careful with canon.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
Apparently, the best Star Trek show on TV is The Orville, which isn't even Star Trek.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. God, it is more Star Trek than current Star Trek.
Well, that's because it's got a bunch of former Star Trek people who worked on Star Trek.
This is also true.
I seem to recall, like, when the Orville first started, like, it wasn't getting that great of reviews, and now, like, that's all I hear people talk about is how great it is. So that's kind of cool that it kind of turned around.
But you also got to take into account, this is 1, before Disney bought Fox. 2, if you look at a lot of the people who gave the Orville poor ratings, they're all on publications that are either owned by or heavily associated with CBS. And they all gave Discovery rave reviews.
Yeah, CBS and they're not. They play dirty when it comes to competition.
Mm-hmm. They know they can't sue the Orville because everything that the Orville does fall under parody. They have enough separation to where it can be viewed as well. You can tell that yes, they are referencing Star Trek and they are tapping into that fan base, but they are still protected by parody laws because of the fact that they are doing their own thing and they're just poking fun at Star Trek while still being a sci-fi adventure show of its own.
Mm-hmm.
Well, CBS and Paramount have done tactics to get perceived competition off the air. They did in the 90s with Babylon 5 when they told TV stations that if they aired Babylon 5, they don't get Deep Space Nine.
Yep.
And so,
Damn.
and to bring that into the abductables, Babylon 5, where this guy was suing an alien for the alien's great-grandfather abducting his great-grandfather.
Oh, yeah. See, I've never watched... is Babylon 5, or is that the one? Or
Yeah, Babylon 5.
Yeah, like, I've seen that scene. I've never watched the show, but yeah, I've seen that scene. It's pretty funny.
You know, and it's funny because I watched Babylon 5, not like religiously, but I watched it back in the day, and it's one of those, like, I'm not a huge Babylon 5 fan, but I give it credit where credit is due. It did its own thing. It was, as bad as it sounds, it was Deep Space Nine before Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, allegedly, Paramount, during the pitching process, stole the Briar's Bible, the season 1 episodes, and characters.
Doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't.
Nope.
So much espionage going on behind the scenes.
Well, I mean, if I remember right, it's the exact like science behind it says that there's only like one original thought per year across the entirety of the species. Okay, one original thought per year, and so of course you're going to see things reimagined. It's why you can't, as bad as it sounds, like take. I think it was like Asteroids and another game that was very similar to Asteroid, but updated. Well, the Atari tried suing the guys who made the update version, and it pretty much got thrown out of court because it was, the way the judge put it, you can own a brand, but you can't own an idea. That does not prevent... Canales will be joining us here shortly. He's having dinner with his folks, but he's about to be back home.
Nice.
Yes. But what's basically going on is, did somebody step into a wind turbine?
That's not me.
But it's one of those, because of that, though, it's why you can have things like DS9 taking practically all the ideas from Babylon 5, just modifying it slightly, and go, no, see, it's a completely different show. It's a completely different space station. It's right next to a wormhole. It deals with an interplanetary conflict between two different species. Like, they made enough changes to it to where it can fall into the realm of, well, the creators of Babylon 5, though they do have a copyright on the species, the station, and so on and so forth that was Babylon 5, they don't have ownership of the concept. I guess you could say the space station drama genre.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. Anybody should be able to tell a story like that. A bunch of characters on a ship going through space, like that's,
Well, can I just say that Avery Brooks sold the role as Cisco?
Yes, he did. Oh my fucking god! And people are like, Michael Burnham is the first black character of note. Did you forget about Cisco?
In case you haven't noticed, with Captain Marvel, they have a very short attention span.
Right? It's like every time you turn around, they're saying that, oh, well, this movie's the first time doing it. We just had a movie come out like 2-3 weeks, a month ago, that has a female lead. It's basically whatever.
But it's anime. That's why. It's an anime character. We can't have anime outpace live action.
Yes, especially when they claim that anime is Nazi propaganda.
Yep.
Oh my fucking god! I forgot all about that. It's like literal shit that can cause aneurysms.
Anime is a gateway to fascism. I think that was like literally an article somewhere.
Well, in a way, it's because of the camaraderie that's shown in there, and they seem to think that anything that involves camaraderie in the military is obviously Nazism.
Yeah, I guess I could get it a little bit. Not that it would be fascistic, but like I could get that their perspective on something like Attack on Titan, which is very pro-military. But I don't understand the premise of anime as a whole, like being right wing.
Well, I have to say that if you're getting the message of Attack on Titan that it's a story about supporting a wall, and you're associating Mexicans with giant, naked cannibals, you might be the racist.
Exactly.
Right?
Mhm.
No, and
But-
go ahead.
I was going to say, and the thing is, yes, the Japanese do. What a lot of people don't realize. Yes, the Japanese do have a very major affection with the Germans because they were allies at one point. So, but they've always. And it's the same thing with us. I mean, look, they hold the United States. I mean, they portray the Americans a certain way too. Just the same ways they did with the Germans. That's just how the Japanese are. A lot of people are like, well, why don't the Japanese hate Americans? Oh, because we came in and kicked our ass. They have respect. You know what I mean? And they would do the same way the Germans did the same thing. Or if the Russians did it. That's just how they are as a people.
There's one thing that I just remembered. The producer of the anime Space Battleship Yamato was convicted of weapons trafficking, and he claims that the howitzer ammo that he had, he was holding on to for an American friend. That's what that's how they view our gun laws. Is that they think that we can just store howitzer cells in our basements.
Wow.
If only.
If we could, that's like, granted, that's what the founding fathers actually wanted. They wanted whatever the military, and that's why whenever they sit there and say, well, like assault weapons, assault rifle, not really a thing. That's liberal term. And military grade weapons. Well, if you want to be technical, the founding fathers wanted anything that the military could get a hold of, your average citizen to be able to get a hold of, because the Second Amendment is not about hunting or anything like that. It's about protecting the people from a tyrannical government, and all that also includes tyrannical parts of the population. And I'm sorry, but if the founding fathers were here today, they'd look at the SJWs and how they're acting. They'd be like, we understand that there is going to be some disconnect from when we established this country, and now there's going to be, cultural changes that have made. But what these guys are saying that we would uphold is not what we would uphold. We specifically wrote the original Bill of Rights and the Constitution to be pretty much a living document, to be something that does evolve and change with times, but at the same time is still binding to its original ideals. They would say,
Amen to that.
yeah, it's like they'd be like, no, if you want to get a tank, you can get a tank. If you want to be able to own a, MLRS, system, you can own a MLRS system.
Well, keep in mind the other people that say that the founding fathers didn't imagine that they would have guns the way they do now. Keep in mind the original predecessors to the machine guns were tested before America was even formed as a nation.
Yep.
So that whole ideology,
that's a good point.
So that whole thing, they knew. I mean, because the one of the first was I think Puckin or whoever. Those guns were like one of the first like mass firing weapons. Now it was always prone to break down and stuff like that because they didn't have the parts machine correctly and stuff like that. They didn't have the technology to machine the parts, but they had that advanced technology back in back in the 1600s.
They
I remember
had the cannons and rapid fire. Like you said, it wasn't sophisticated, but they were already on their way even back then.
Yeah, and remember at the first what we'd classify as a fully automatic rifle. Well, this was more like would look like more like a modern day mounted, 50 cal, and it was made in like 1671, I do believe. Like it, and so you really, if you sit down and look at what they were trying to do then, and look at what we have now, they would be like, no, this is exactly what we figured. And on top of that, they were alive at a time when they understood the value of the printing press, because the printing press was a fairly new at the time, mind you, technology. It was only like it had been around for a couple hundred years, but it was still a revolutionary technology that they still heavily relied upon at the time and understood that its value and how it could be used for both good and bad. They would look at internet and things like that today and be like, all that is just a modern printing press. It is the same technology we had back in our time, only updated for what you require in today's day and age. I mean, I'm sorry, but they would like these. And the worst part is the fact that when you actually take the time to look at a lot of the things that they said and what they were trying to convey to the various, population of the, I guess you could say, colonies. There we go. That's the best way to put it. To the various colonies that would become America and everything, the original 13 states, they were like, look, we understand that there will be people who try to warp these laws, that try to use these laws for their own ends. That's why if you flip it over, there's things on how to overthrow, the government if need be properly. That's why overthrowing the government is not illegal. They did that on purpose because they knew there'd come a time when it needed to be done. Also, what's up, Mecca? You came in as we're having historical and political and yep. My bad. This is what happens when you read too much. Warning, kid. Books are a gateway drug to knowledge.
And we can't have that.
Ain't that the truth?
I mean, it's borderline illegal to even have like pride as an American anymore.
Right.
So kids nowadays being raised to, I mean, in school learning about the Constitution and everything. I don't know I mean, it must be pretty bad. I can't even imagine how bad like the public school system has gotten as far as like teaching kids about, because even when I was, I'm not that old, but when I was a kid, they would still, teach you pride as an American and, oh, the founding fathers, they were so awesome. And, you got to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Like, I feel like one of the major roots of the problems that we're facing as a country now is the fact that we don't have any pride as Americans anymore.
Well, that's actually a lot truer than you realize.
Mm-hmm.
Because, all right, if you look at any like major civilization throughout history, it's once they reach a certain point, and one of the things that, and this is all the trans activists and pro-trans people are going to hate this, and they're going to try to take this out of context and be like, well, see, he's transphobic. No, I understand history. When you start blurring the lines between genders and you start making androgyny the norm, you are actually weakening the foundation of your society. See, one of the key pillars of a society is separation of the sexes into specific roles. And, the family, belief and love for your country, for your nation. These are, for your civilization, so on and so forth. These are required things in order for your society to survive, to be able to continue on. It's why if you look at Rome, for instance, and look at how, as same with Greece before Rome, if you look at them, and they have all the markers of a collapsing society right where we're at now, which was about 100 years before the Rome.
Yeah, it is very creepy when you see the historical parallels to what's going on now. So, I mean, history is just, it goes in cycles, and man, we're in the bad part of the cycle right now, unfortunately.
Mecca's like, I'm not drunk. We were originally talking about abductables, which we're about to get back to because we finally got Canales in the hangout. But
Buenas noches.
Sup, Canales?
We got that sexy Latin voice, bro.
Yeah, I'm extra sexy tonight because I have a terrible bronchitis, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but I sound slightly like Joe Cocker tonight.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, you missed it earlier, Canales, because I was doing my best. I was doing my best to try to mimic your voice and mannerisms and whatnot.
Really?
Yes.
Oh shit, man! I'm sorry I missed that. I was having dinner at the slowest place in my town.
Well, we were making the joke that you'd been abducted by the Greys, and I was like, man, if they abducted Canales, he'd probably they're like, what do you mean take you to my leader? No, you don't need to. What you need to do is you need to abduct a few more of us, get us off planet, fuck everyone else, take me. You always need a strong vast command to be able to lead the way for my people.
I do sound like that. I see completely. I see myself in that impersonation. Congratulations.
Your Canales impersonation sounds a little like Scarface.
Yeah, I think I'm going to become an icon in Comics Gate, at least as the guy with the weirdest accent in the lot.
Oh,
The
definitely.
best accent.
Well, okay, I'll take
That's
that.
more like
Yeah,
it.
between you and Tank, I think you two have the best
Yeah.
accents.
Yeah, Tank sounds like. Hello, I'm Tank. I'm from South Africa. I'm slightly like Arnold.
Well,
Something like. I tried. I'm sorry.
right.
That's like the hardest accent, South African. I mean, you got to be really good to nail that one because it's such a mixture of so many different accents. It's like British mixed with Dutch. I don't know. It's crazy.
The problem with South Africa, the accent of the South Africans is when you're trying to talk like a South African, you have, like you said, so many different accents mixed together. But at the same time, there's also a tone in the voice. Like, listen to Tank. Like, to stop trying to do his accent. Listen to Tank. He has a very specific pitch, if you will. When he says certain words, his voice will raise up, and it's very unique to the way to South Africans. New Zealanders get it close, but it's hard to explain it. Where it's certain words for South Africans, New Zealanders, they kind of have when it comes to New Zealanders, it's a bit different. It's a bit more laid back. It's kind of like the laid back South African, if you will, but with a bit more chippiness and I don't know, maybe a bit happier. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, that would be like the guy from District 9, right? The weakest guy. It's like I did not have sex with no fucking creature, man.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I know for Australians, a good method to pull off an Australian accent is to end every sentence like it's a question. Like, I'm Australian. How's it going?
Right. If you're trying to do a bit of an Australian accent, you got to be able to. You got to get that tone, mate. You got to get that tone. It's deep down. It's a bit drunk. It's a bit happy. It's a bit all over the place. But at the same time, it's all about going out and having a good time with your mates. If you're not going out and having a good time with your mates in this accent, then you're not doing it right. You're not doing it justice.
Yeah, they sound like they're smiling all the time, right? I mean, the Australians.
Yeah.
That's not nice. That's nice.
It's like they're constantly out having a good time with their mates. They're having a few beers and they're having a good time with some barbecue. You know what I'm talking about.
Get in some fights with some kangaroos.
You got that right. and watch out for those roos, mate. When those roos be coming out of the woodwork, they just come out. I'm telling you, mate.
Hey, look, it's Tugga, and we be going fighting around the world.
They're all down there, Russell.
Fighting around the world.
And this is the reason why the aliens and the abductables are abducting us. They don't know what the fuck is going on. They're like, they all speak differently. Even when they're speaking the same language, it sounds differently.
Yeah, have you guys realized? Have you noticed how in Star Trek and Star Wars and all the space operas, there's only one race and one nationality per planet? There's not, there's
Oh
only
yeah.
one Klingon nationality. There's not Klingons from down the south who talk like this, mate. And or Klingons from up north or whatever. They're just Klingons.
Well, actually, if I remember right, per canon, there's like 26 syntaxes of Klingon.
Oh, really?
That could, yes,
Yeah.
they're
That's probably in the deep lore, like extended universe type stuff.
yeah.
They got to keep it simple for the main shows, probably.
Well, there's no. It's not like a expanded universe like with Star Wars had. The books and comics are always loosely connected.
They're referred to as beta content in Star Trek lore, because you have alpha, which is movies and shows, which is what sets up everything you see, and then you have beta content, which is the comics, the things like the cartoon is beta, if I remember correctly. It's not classified as alpha content. Dan shows actually, on rare occasion, can be classified as beta content because they add to the lore, and the guys working on the whatever new series coming up likes it, because come on, this is Star Trek. It's had fan films since fan films became a thing.
Yeah, they really enjoyed Axanar for Discovery.
Oh, God, why did that dude have to get into the whole is it Magnolia?
Mignonia, but I have a friend who pronounces it a very different and politically incorrect way,
Wow.
which I am not going to say on stream because they'll get a strike.
Yeah, I bet it will.
Mignonia. I still can't pronounce it.
As far as I know, when you put a G and an N together in Italian, that's an enya sound, like we have in Spanish.
Correct.
Mignonia. I think it's mignonia.
Okay, so he's
Mignonia.
Italian.
Correct.
To be honest, I think the reason why
Resident Italian here, by the way.
We need your expert opinion.
Shut up, you frickin' wop. We don't want to hear nothing from you.
Hey, I'm also a Mick too, so calm down there.
So I do think I know why he's getting into the whole Vic thing. It's because Vic was talking shit about Axanar everywhere. So this is more like his revenge.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, Vic.
Because all I know is Prelude to Axanar, man. I don't know if y'all have seen it's like a 30-second video.
30 minutes.
No, not the Prelude to Axanar. It's another bit I'm talking about that I'm referencing. It's making fun of Fortnite and Apex Legends, where it's like this. Fortnite is like this dog outside, but got standing up on hind legs and hands and whatnot. It's supposed to be like, don't even know what you'd call it, but dude's like, sorry, boy, it's time to put you down. He's got a shotgun and everything. Fortnite starts doing starts flossing. It's like, don't do that. You're just making this harder than it already is. Don't do that. And then he's like, he looks back at the house and you see this big old buff ripped like dude with a Apex written across the chest. The most erect nipples ever slapped up against the window.
Oh Lord.
And you just hear, and he's like, oh, bam! Like that was a prelude to Axanar and Star Trek, like pretty much Star Trek Discovery and Enterprise at the time. It is just, I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
Don't do that. You're just making this harder than it already is. And then the dude gets involved in the Vic Magnolia thing or whatever.
David Gerald also got involved with that too for a couple of Facebook posts where he criticized Vic's how Vic acted during the whole Axanar thing. And apparently Vic is a very competitive person, so he saw Axanar and Star Trek New Voyages as competition that he had to crush.
Yeah, it's really disgusting how so many people are using this whole kick Vic thing as like an excuse to carry out their personal grudges against him. Like, I mean,
But
Yeah, apparently
being
voice
a
act. Sorry.
oh, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that apparently American voice actors are pieces of shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think
Wow.
I think it's hilarious that so many people are going after him. It's like, gee, I wonder what skeletons you have in your closet.
Well, the majority of them are. There's a very few that I have seen that aren't. Although I think Johnny Young Busk is one of the few who isn't one.
Yeah, he seems like a stand-up guy. Hopefully, he hasn't really said anything about this whole kick Vic thing, has he?
Mm-mm.
No, neither has Marcel Ruff or Liam O'Brien, from what I can see.
Yeah, like Stephanie Shea. There's a lot of them who are really have kind of kept their mouth shut about the whole thing. I mean, I'm the same way. I've kept my mouth shut because I know Vic personally and I know Monica Rial personally. So I've kind of kept my nose out of the whole thing too, because I've been friends with both of them for a long time. So I don't want to, you know what I mean?
Well, it
Yeah,
makes the Macross dub rather uncomfortable to watch because you have both Vic and Monica as love interests.
Mm.
That's why you watch the Japanese dub, or you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
but
Well, I prefer the Japanese version anyway because the dub is crap.
right, or the way I look at it, like real quick though, before we continue on this, go see Prelude to Axanar. You really need it in your life. That was an amazing. That it made me really anxious to see Axanar whole, but to get to because I had to get that out there because I did like the Prelude to Axanar, but this is how I look at dub versus sub. Since I run dual screen and when I am playing certain games, I like to have audio going that I can kind of turn over to watch because I'm playing like an RTS or something. That's where dubs come in handy. But if I'm going to sit down and just watch, like actually watch something, which is rare, that's when I want to see subs.
Yeah,
But
I'm like anything new that I watch, like an anime that I haven't seen before. I'm 100% for subs. Uh, uh, Obviously, I have a nostalgia for the dubs that I grew up with. Like of course the Dragon Ball Z one, but like watching shows originally subbed and then hearing the dub is so off-putting. Like when you hear like an American taking on the role that you're used to hearing in Japanese, like it just sounds terrible to me. And it's like, man, if I hadn't grown up with these shows and had the nostalgia of these voice actors, would I think they're as good as they are, or are there just really certain dubs that are better than others? Because I don't know, like
I think it's a bit of both. There
I
are
think it's
certain
yeah.
dubs.
Bit of both. Like I will say, like for instance, like if you watch Ghost in the Shell in the Japanese, it is not. I think there's some nuance lost, but if you watch it in the English dub, it comes across completely 100%. Like because it's so much about existentialism and stuff like that. Where I think that's where the dub is, as the American release, is much more superior to the Japanese release. Don't get me wrong, I love the Japanese release too, but I just think that in that case, that show was a much better dub. Same with like Armitage 3 and stuff like that. Some of those dubs were great, but now going forward, I think that, especially because the Japanese artists now are so well known, and I think that a lot of people are so accustomed to listening to those voice actors. I think that's why now they're just the American dubbing can't keep up.
Yeah, and they've also lost the trust of the audience because now they're pulling crap by adding in like American pop culture references into
Yeah.
the dubs and like
They
adding their
did that.
little.
They did that like anti Gamergate propaganda in one
Mhm.
dub, right?
Yeah, they
Mhm.
had an anti-Gamergate line thrown into one, and it's just like the script writers who are doing the translations are just throwing in their personal politics. It's like, man, I just don't trust them anymore.
Well, yeah. Well, what do you expect? I mean, we're talking about individuals that's what I mean. We're all guilty of it. Let's not try to say we're not. we all tend to put our personal politics into our projects. It's just to what extent? Like,
Well, that's the problem. Is it's not their project technically. You know, their job is to translate and adapt a pre-existing property. So you know they really betray the audience by messing with it and changing things up to that extent. I understand a certain amount of localization is necessary because you know there are a lot of Japanese pop culture references that probably wouldn't make any sense to us. But I mean, obviously, stuff like adding Gamergate references into an anime is really, really stupid.
It's the same problem that we have with SJW comics, right? I mean, if all SJW comics were Black Mask, I wouldn't have any problem with that. I would just simply think that they suck. But the problem is that they're appropriating pre-existing characters. They're appropriating other people's work to push their politics, and that's what I think it's unethical, so to speak.
but you know what comic doesn't have any of that? You know what comic is the furthest thing from a political statement and is actually technically more of a love letter to 80s action films?
Jawbreakers.
No, The Abductible.
Damn it!
Damn it, Matt! You're fired. Turn me Matt, gun, and
Well, here's the thing: you don't pay me, so you can't technically fire me.
damn it.
That's actually a good. That's actually a good selling point. If you like Jawbreakers, you'll love The Abductibles.
Exactly.
I won't say no to that. That's a good point. I mean, it's also it's highly testosterone driven, like Jawbreaker. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you missed it earlier when I was like, no, see, it's too high testosterone. Here, you need the main character to drink some soy. Here, give him the soy latte from Starbucks. It's got pumpkin spice. Oh, he'll love it. I swear he'll love it. And
the main character needs wider hips and a patchy beard.
exactly. He needs to be 30 pounds overweight at least. I mean, come on.
I just thought of a good tagline.
Huh.
His masculinity isn't just toxic; it's downright lethal.
Yeah. That needs to be you need that on your Indiegogo now.
Yes, I'm gonna tweet that out as soon as this is over. Hopefully, I remember.
It's like, yes, that's see, but once again, we do need to get back on talking about the Abductables and the awesomeness love letter to 80s action movies that it is.
Well, I'm surprised nobody came up with the idea beforehand.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of the benefits. It's such a simple concept. It's a nice. It makes for a nice elevator pitch, and it's a nice high concept. I mean, I don't know. I feel like everybody's thought of this at some point. Like, man, what if I was abducted by aliens? Like, what would I do? Like,
please don't take me back. I can't stand my species. They're all a bunch of retards.
Yeah, and someone actually asked me on Twitter, like, well, wait a minute. When aliens abduct you, they put you under, and like you're basically in a state of sleep paralysis. Like, how does he get out of that? And sure enough, we do actually explain that in the book. So if you're wondering how he's up and about on the ship, well, we will explain that. So
he's basically too manly to stay sedated.
I was actually about to say probably something along the lines of he's a heavy drinker. Andre the Giant, because of how big he was when he had to have an operation done, they couldn't figure out the right dosage to give him because of how much of a tolerance to alcohol and whatnot he had. Now, mind you, Andre the Giant was already huge. So that was already a complication, with how big he is and everything. And then the fact that he was a heavy alcoholic on top of that and had a high tolerance for things, inebriants of such.
Yep.
So yeah, he would probably use horse tranquilizer as recreational drugs.
Probably, yeah. I still haven't seen the documentary. I heard it's really good. The HBO documentary about Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I just was wondering, because of the bit about the Princess Bride, the recent get together of everyone who was in the movie that they had like a month ago that was going around on Twitter. Because they had Gary Ools, Billy Crystal, the chick who played the princess.
See, that's what I missed for not being on Twitter.
You're not missing much, Canales. You're not missing much, believe me.
I must say that I'm saner now. My mental health is it's healthier.
I think anyone would be a lot more sane when taken off of Twitter.
Yes, just take a break every now and then.
Well,
yeah, I think once the campaign's over with, I'm gonna take a bit of a Twitter detox for a little bit because it gets to you for sure.
Yeah,
I usually try to take off at least once a month. Take a weekend off. It's actually fairly nice to get that nice little detox in there.
Yeah. Well, I'm at this point I'm barely on Facebook. The only reason why I still have my Facebook is because there's a lot of people who that's the only way they can get a hold of me is through Facebook. But if I didn't have any worry of people being able to get a hold of me, whatnot, I didn't require Facebook for that. My Facebook would have long since been closed down. Because quite frankly, my Twitter, as much as my Twitter can piss me off with the political shit there, too many people I've known for years have become blatant far left identitarians. And then when you mention this, it's like, dude, you've become an identitarian. They're like, I'm not a white nationalist. Throws glasses across the room, headset to the other side of the room. What part of far left identitarian don't you understand? That doesn't mean white nationalist, you dumb mother. You're too book smart for this. I think I'm having an aneurysm. Keels over dead.
As someone pretty new, up and coming in the comic book industry, I'm pretty jealous of the guys who made a name for themselves, like pre-internet. Because like guys like Garth Ennis, he doesn't have any social media, and he could still sell his books. Like, unfortunately for me, social media is kind of a necessary evil to promote and get the word out. But it would be nice to one day be able to sell books purely on name brand recognition, and I could become the hermit that I want to be and never go on the internet again.
Dude.
I don't know, man. I enjoy pissing SJWs off on Twitter.
Yeah, because you're a master shit poster.
Yes, I am, and I'm proud of it.
See, that's the problem. I think those glory days are long gone. Like, you can't even sneeze on Twitter without getting banned. Like,
no, that's also true.
Yeah,
they're cracking down hard on wrong thinkers lately.
Yeah,
and then you watch the Joe Rogan podcast with Jack Dorsey, his lawyer, Tim Pool, and Joe Rogan, and it's like he burns them continuously, makes them look stupid to millions of people, and they don't fix anything. They just double down. They act like it didn't happen. And
I really, really, really hate Jack because he's such a scumbag that he'll actually sit there and like admit to all this crap that Twitter is doing that's messed up, and he'll be like, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's wrong. And then he just, he doesn't do anything about it. Mm-hmm. Like, I understand, like, Twitter's kind of grown out of his control and he's only one guy, but dude, you can do, you have some say.
Are you the CEO of the company, or are you the CEO of the company? Fire the people you have to when they go, but no, look at, we're about to be we are having people saying the only way to get Twitter back on track is to introduce legislation and basically create either an internet bill of rights or a system specifically designed for American internet companies to prevent us from doing what we're doing now. I'm sorry, but if y'all are going to cause me this much trouble and this much headache, I'm supposed to be a CEO I'm supposed to be like a billionaire playboy philanthropist type character, and instead I'm the villain of the week every week.
Yeah, you're supposed to be Bruce Wayne, and in turn you are actually the Joker or Ra's al Ghul.
No, I think the other problem too is keep in mind he may be the CEO, but he's got shareholders that he's beholden to. So if the shareholders are the ones, I think that, and knowing the tech industry, because I am into the tech industry, I guarantee it's not Jack directing the ship. It's the shareholders directing the ship. And most of his, I'd say probably at least 99.9% of all his shareholders are left-leaning far liberals. And
that's what I don't understand about like the rich left. Is like
Okay,
they really don't like. Do you care about making money or not? Like, are you?
It's
they care about making money, but they're the ones that want to take and control everything. They
So
care.
if I may speak from the point of view of an old leftist who also had interacted with high tier leftists in the past, these guys see themselves as the ones in the Politburo, as the
Mhm.
ones calling the shots.
Mhm.
None of the thinkers of the minds and the revolution see themselves work in the factories or work in the fields. They're always
Yeah.
the ones in the office, taking the shots, calling the shots, and telling other people what to do. That's how they see it.
Mm.
Mhm.
Wow.
Reminds me of that talk that God Emperor Leto II had with Duncan Idaho about how the revolutionary isn't really a revolutionary, but a rival for power.
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, Dune has a shitload of wisdom. I need to reread at
really
least the first book.
do. It's one of those, like, I'm looking at my copy of Dune right now, like I'll admit I've never completed the book. I've wanted to. I just
That's
there's
that's
I don't
pretty high on my reading list. I actually haven't read Dune yet.
well, I have a problem with fiction. Like, you can get down I can sit down and read textbooks, I can sit down and read books on history, things that you learn from. No problem. I'm not bored. I'm well entertained. You stick a book that's like sci-fi, straight fiction, right up my alley in any other arena, movies, comics, things like that, and I'm going to be bored out of my mind.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to read that book like I don't know 15 years ago when I still had the patience of a young man. I wouldn't be able to finish it now.
I can
Yeah,
believe.
it's hard with the way the internet's making everybody's attention span. It's harder
Yeah,
to.
no, that's true, man.
What I don't understand is like, and this is pretty common. Like, it's hard to sit through like a 2 hour movie, but people can binge watch like a 10 episode show where every episode's an hour.
Yeah, but the
Like,
thing is that the thing about the shows is that it's the pacing that in like 45
mm,
minutes of runtime stuff happens and you want to know more. In a movie, maybe if it's if you're gonna make movies like Quentin Tarantino does them, nothing is going to happen in like 1 hour and 15 minutes. So
yeah,
it's all about the pacing.
that's true. Yeah, they're like designed to keep you watching and the
And
cliffhangers and everything.
and,
Yeah.
and to speak for yourself, I'm more like don't have the patience for either of them. That's why once again, dual screen, man, dual screen. I'm like, if I'm in the mood, I'll like I to be honest, like, as many times as I've watched Futurama, most of it I have watched while playing something and listening to it. I've still reached the point where I'm still quoting it and making the jokes. Right timing and everything, right tone. But I like, then again, when you watch something so many times and you still are finding jokes that they did, that shows quality. Like, that's why I love Futurama.
Yeah, good shows and good movies don't age. They're impervious to time.
And
Yeah.
and it's like, I remember, I think it was Doug Garrett, if I remember correctly, who had mentioned how, how did we end up with like 30 seasons of The Simpsons, 30, just constantly going, but we only got like 7, 8 seasons of Futurama and like 4 made for TV movies. But here's the thing. The Simpsons, the jokes are old. Nobody really cares about The Simpsons anymore. Everyone's all like, okay, either give us another freaking movie or just get canceled already. All right.
Yeah, the worst thing that can happen to a TV show is for it to stick around too long. Like once you get past like season 7, that's when it's inevitably going to go downhill.
Oh yeah.
Unless you're South Park.
You know what? Yeah, you're right.
Well, and that's because Trey Parker and Matt Stone, it's like I was actually mentioning last week on your live stream with Matt Rice. Is it Rice or Rays?
Yeah.
But it's like I was mentioning with him, they stick to the but therefore model. It's not and then. So where you'd have a situation. Well, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. For them, it's this happens, but because of that, this happens. Therefore, the reaction is this. But they overreacted, so now you have this situation. Therefore, it's causing this situation to get out of hand, but you have something coming out of entirely left field that no one saw, all because of the initial, and that's what they do.
Yeah, and South Park also has the benefit of it's still the vision of those two guys. It's very, there's not like rotating writers' rooms like The Simpsons, where the people writing the show now have nothing to do with the original creators, and it's completely corporate. I will say that I'm a few seasons behind South Park. I mean, I love South Park, but that one season where they actually did like the long form storytelling, that I really wasn't a fan of that. I couldn't really get into it. I think I prefer the done in one episodes.
That was the episode dealing around the 2016 election, and like the reason why they were doing it that way is they're all like, oh, this Hillary's gonna win. We have no worry about it. There's no way they're gonna let Trump win. Whatever. And so they're like, we are safe. We can do long form storytelling. And then Trump won, and they had no idea what to do. And thus why they went back to that, because it's like, let's try something new, and things didn't go. Like Matt Parker, Trey Stone and Matt Parker has been known for having their finger on the beat of society and being able to predict things fairly well. And because of that, that's what they built South Park, I should say, off of, is that ability to look down the road and see where society is going and being able to play off of it before we get there.
Have any of y'all seen like the most recent South Park episodes? Are they still going after SJWs?
The PC thing kind of going back this year though. They did have like they had the PC babies now. Principal PC principal and the one teacher or the vice principal had children, so so they had like the PC. Yeah, they had like the PC babies. So, like anybody would say anything PC, the non-PC, the babies would start crying and stuff like that. And they had them make a record and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So there were some good episodes, but they did kind of wrap up the whole thing with like Al Gore and the Man Pig Bear.
Oh, nice.
So they kind of wrapped that up this season too. So I have a feeling they're probably going to eventually end here very soon, because they seem to be wrapping up a lot of their storylines.
And they also started that whole hashtag cancel South Park.
That's good possibility. They might see the writing on the wall, and they're like, how much longer can we continue to make these jokes? And also real quick, Mecha said in chat, funny, I enjoyed Futurama more than The Simpsons. I think that's pretty much true for everyone at this point.
Yeah, it's Futurama is pretty much perfect. Like it's going to be a classic. Unfortunately, Simpsons outstayed its welcome, and it kind of ruined its own reputation.
Yeah. Hey, just guys, get to know, you guys jumped up by $30. You got 2 additional backers.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Nice.
Thank you to our new backers.
Right?
That's very exciting. Canales, I don't know if you saw, but we hit 50% today, so we're officially halfway.
I'm checking the campaign 89 backers, 50%, dude. And we
Yes.
still have 22 days left.
Yes, we
Right.
got.
It's going well.
We're halfway there, and we're not even halfway through the campaign. Very, very exciting.
See
Well,
that?
you know, as I told Michael, I won't have to gorge on Bleach anymore because I saw less than Astonishing Gators.
That was our personal goal was to, as long as we sold more than Astonishing Gators, we will be fine. I don't know
Wow.
if y'all saw that. That was the Comicsgate parody book that some SJW made.
Oh boy.
That
I
that poor
think
that
I
poor guy.
remember
No, I
that.
didn't
Was that on
see that.
Kickstarter?
Yeah, it was a Kickstarter. It was like I mean, I guess the whole thing was just making fun of Comicsgate and like
Yeah, the thing is they pushed it for like I don't know, maybe 3 months, something like that. They like extended the deadline at least twice, and they pushed it on Gail Simon's Twitter account, on Renfamous's Twitter account, and in total, after 2 months, they didn't manage to gather more than 70 backers worldwide. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think a little over $1,000, which
yeah,
Looking at it now,
barely 2,000.
they 73 backers for $1,910.
It's almost as if SJWs can sell comics to save their own lives.
And it's funny because right off the bat, you can. It's like I didn't even like. I had heard about it, but I was like, whatever. Really?
Or if they sell comics, they end up scamming people.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
no, that's always something that they do. You know, yeah, we have fulfilled our, we fulfilled our campaign. Or we reached our goal, but we need the goal to draw the sequel. And when you have the sequel, you will have also the first part. What the fuck kind of logic is that?
yeah.
see, I'm looking at this and I'm just like Renpool, really? Steelheart, Guinea Pig
Minimum
Girl,
effort, fam.
like White Knight, Social Justice Spider, Just Girl, Soira the Transgender Power, the Impenetrable Sunray, and Steelheart. And I'm just like,
The left can't mem. I mean, they can't even come up with good superhero names.
right?
Yeah, some of those
Yeah,
sound
there you
like stuff that we would come up with just to make fun of them for their bad ideas, but they're actually taking it seriously.
Right? And I'm just, oh my god, why I'm just see, I'm just, and at the same time, this further proves. I mean, the fact that Wanpool, for instance, got funded in the first day.
Oh yeah, that campaign is really kicking ass. Like they're already like way past funded, and I think they're getting their stretch goals now. So
Last time I checked, I think they were at like
73.
73. Yep,
Yep.
73.
Just hit the stickers goal. The next one, I forget what the next stretch goal is,
Like,
but it's getting there. It's looking good.
Well, shit,
nope.
I'm as envious as I am happy for Troy because he really deserves it.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Like,
yes.
and here's the thing, like, with the Wanpool campaign, I mean, the thing that Troy has going for him, he has over like a year and a half, 2 years with this character of push. And on top of that, about a year now with the comic being out, and whatnot. And on top of that, it was, wasn't it like Indie Comic of the Year nominee? Yep.
Yeah.
Last year, things like that. It's got a lot going for it, and that's
Yeah.
the only reason why it got funded in that first day is because one, everybody loves Troy. All right, he gets along with everybody. He doesn't care who you are. As long as you're cool to him, he's cool with you. Like, and that's these things that these SJWs don't understand. Prime example, you two, you're not shoehorning politics into your comic. You're not shoehorning politics into your campaign. That's why you guys are. I mean, you may not have had the same immediate success like Wanpool did, but at the same time, you also don't have 2 years practically of, I guess you could say, hype for the campaign.
Yeah, no, Troy has been living for the character for the last 18 months. You know,
Yeah.
he's been breathing and drinking and sleeping Huampool.
And
Yeah,
I think
he's
another reason why he's doing so well is that he's pushing it because he knows what it's like to be in a situation where where you've pretty much had some basically everything that the SJW say that they've had happen to them, such as job loss and all that. He's actually experienced, and he's going to, and with that experience, he knows how much it sucks. While they will just claim it and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, you know that one guy who with all the cats.
gotta be more specific.
That KS guy.
Oh, Karen Shiak,
Yeah,
Sandwich Boy.
Yep.
Oh, Sandwich Boy. Okay.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking about?
Did he ever get the sandwich? That's what I want to know.
Oh, I'm sure he probably did.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure he's gotten many sandwiches by now.
Yeah,
And
but
if he didn't, he probably mugged an old lady somewhere and stole her purse to pay for
exactly.
something.
Well,
That's kind of person he
exactly.
is.
Hey, you're giving him more credit than me. I was saying he got plenty of sandwiches, by getting donations all over his back.
Oh boy!
Oh.
Why'd you got to give us that mental image?
Yeah, I
I was
think
going to say that he probably got a lot of dick sandwiches, but that was a bit more crude.
Oh no! You
That's
Shit.
Spanish. That's Spanish humor for you, man. I mean, I keep saying that Spanish humor can be summarized in a gag. A guy goes to the church to attend his his nephew's first communion, and he falls down the stairs, and his wife yells, "What are you doing, Manolo?" And that's the joke. No, that's Spanish humor. I mean, apparently people find it funny here. I don't know.
just wow. But no,
I think you just blew all our minds.
right.
I think the other thing too, where Troy and doing good, I think where you're doing good, both Canales and Mike, is the fact of you guys have been building these projects. You know what I mean? It's not like
Yes.
you've been crafting this idea for almost a year. Same thing with Troy, 18 months. Same thing with Rags and all these other ones that are doing really well, is because you're building that audience and you're setting the expectation. You're interacting with your customers, and you're putting out a great concept that people can get behind. And I think that's where I think some of these Indiegogos need to really step back and think about that. I think some of them that are failing, we need, and that's something we learned from. We failed our original campaign, and we step back and say, okay, well, what did we do wrong? And I'm seeing these people. One of the things is that they're not interacting. You going on to the live stream to push your project and all this other stuff that people need to do. That's what I wish more and more people would do.
Yeah. I was me and Canales have been promoting the abductables for months leading up to the campaign before it even launched, and I only start this April will be the 1 year anniversary of when I started Twitter. So I mean, I'm still fairly new to social media, but you're right. You can't. I don't know. Unless it's just an amazing concept that for some reason resonates with people. I don't think you can just cold launch a campaign and get funded. We gotta fight for every backer we get, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a clear example of that thing, of not doing that right would be Joe Glass's Indiegogo campaign for this military science fiction project that he had. That he was barely there, and then he went on a rant because Zach actually praised the concept, And he took it personally as if he was somehow making fun of him passive aggressively, and he went on a rant of several tweets, and the funding failed. And I don't know to which extent him being an asshole on social media, killed the project.
See, and that's why SJWs are so stupid because, like, I'm playing nice on Twitter. I'm being very careful because they're so quick to ban people, as you know
Yeah, no,
firsthand.
they want to drag you down with them. That's what they
Yeah,
do. They're
exactly.
miserable and angry,
But like him getting mad that Zach was talking about his book, it's like, how like if SJWs like started attacking the abductables, that would be great for us. Like that would help. That would boost our
I've
sales.
been
Like it's
I've been
exposure.
tempted. I've been tempted to contact Ren on Facebook and send her a link and tell her, please don't trash your comic on social media. That would hurt her so much.
Yeah,
Don't
like
do it.
I'm trying to. I threw a little bit of bait out there, just subtly, like to see if they'll bite. But I think they're getting a little smarter, so they know whenever these campaigns launch to keep their mouths shut. Because
Oh yeah.
yeah,
No, there's two types of SJWs. One that the useful idiots, the cannon fodder that are at the bottom, and the smart ones that are at the top that know that what they're saying is bullshit. But when the revolution happens, they will be in charge. And I think Ren is of this higher W.
yeah, she knows when to keep her mouth shut and when to attack. So.
Well,
no.
here's the other thing.
If she knew when to keep her mouth shut, she would have never gone on that live stream with EVS, and she would have never allowed herself to look like a fool in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah, okay. She's still an SJW, but she's slightly smarter than the average SJW. Like in Tremors, like the last worm won't take the bait, won't go for the dynamite. That's how she is. That's the next generation of SJW is just slightly more smarter than the original.
The other thing too, keep in mind, she used to be a Republican at one time, so she knows how the game works. You know what I mean? So she knows the when or the right time. That's one thing. Right leaning people or people who are centrist, right leaning, they tend to know when to stop.
Yeah, my theory is that she's a pathological abuser. She enjoys hurting people, be it by insults or doxing or whatever. And she thought that by being a Republican, I got a new like on Instagram. Sorry. She initially thought that Republicans would would allow her to be an asshole, But when the Republicans went the moderate route and said, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're not hating on gays. We're not hating on non-minorities. We need them to vote for us. She decided, okay, I'm gonna go SJWs because those are the ones who actually allow you to be a racist and to be an asshole. The ones who clap when you abuse people like a fucking psychopath that you are.
All because you're abusing them with my rat think.
Yeah, it's basically a license for psychopaths to just run wild and not only run wild but get praised for it. So.
Oh yeah. Well, at the same time though, let's be honest. We're talking about a blue-haired that's she came on the scene out of nowhere, running her mouth at everybody, memeing everybody to the best of her ability. But she didn't do very good either. And really, pretty much the only thing she's really known for is being a somewhat all-right looking cosplayer, but not good enough to get to Thoughtbot, level. Like, she couldn't be sitting there on a Twitch like, low-cut shirt. Look at my titties! Donate to my Patreon! I'll send you lewd! Everyone, like, the minute she mentioned lewds, everyone started throwing up into their trash can.
No, here's the thing. She did look all right at first when I decided to try and hit on her through DMs, because I must say that I'm extremely successful with SJW women. But since she became unemployed and she spends 100% of her time sitting in front of the computer trolling people, she's gotten so freaking fat, man. I mean, she looked like a pile of tau in the Kevin Logan live stream.
She looks like a sack of potatoes, an anthropomorphic sack of potatoes walking around like anybody got some potato chips. How about
No,
my Diet Coke?
and her voice, man, the she's got a problem with her voice, with the whole. Comicsgate is a group of people that dislike things, and therefore they don't like things that they dislike. Shut up.
Yeah, she's definitely better at communicating over Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. Please stay away from live stream and stay tweety.
She really did kind of catfish Comicsgate.
She tried.
No, she catfished me. I thought she would be much hotter than she actually is in real life.
Canales is up in them DMs like, send nudes. He finally got them, and he's like, oh God, my eyes!
Yeah, oh God, what have I done? What have I gotten myself into?
I will never be able to have sex again.
I must say that I contacted with pretty hot SJW women because they had this whole almost Betty Page thing going on, that some of them have with the tattoos and the cat's eye glasses. But this one, I think it's her voice, man. I think, yeah. No, sorry, go ahead.
No. It's like this. See, here's the thing about SJW women, especially feminist SJW women. See, the reason why you have so much luck with them is because, quite frankly, you're not a soy boy. You're not a cuck. The minute they're all like, oh, so Darren wants to come over and he wants you to watch.
Yeah, I'm the guy they cheat on their soy boy husbands with.
Yeah, exactly. Like no, it's like, but I'm saying is when they try to do that too, you're like, who's Darren and what the fuck does he think he's going to get through my front door without getting shot? Like. I'm just saying. Do I look like I'm your standard Spaniard? No, I'm Basque. Get it right.
Actually, Basques are kind of cracked right now. But this has always been a big matriarchy. But so I'm an anomaly in my own race. I'm like, I don't know. I was trying to make like a Spock. I'm a half human that isn't fully accepted by his own people.
Right. No. But I'm just saying. Like,
my theory on feminist women is that it's some kind of, this weird thing that women do, that when they like you, they won't tell you that they like you. They I don't know. They will have a friend tell you that they fancy one of your friends, and they're trying to make you jealous. This whole twisted thing that they do. I think it's something like that. They're trying to provoke men into being alphas.
Yeah. Here's the thing. The only thing that they can provoke men into doing is, at this point, is to apparently chopping off their own dick and starting to call themselves Laverne. I'm just saying. Because
that reminds me, I need to watch that Lorraine Bobbitt documentary. It's pretty good.
Hey, but wait, because and let's be honest. Ren's ideal Saturday night is probably being choked out by her husband's boyfriend, because we all know her husband's too soy boy to do this, and is probably that type that's like, hey sweetie, you want to bring someone else into the bedroom? She's like, oh yeah, I got a couple friends that I know they're hot. Well, I was actually thinking about Brad.
That's why they're so degenerate, is they have to like fetishize like normal gender roles, and like the man being the leader of the household, and then the woman, it's like they if they would just be normal, like they'd have healthy relationships, but instead they have to turn it into some kind of weird fetish. And just that's why they're always like talking about their weird sexual habits online, as
I think a lot of them are downright psychopaths, and psychopaths can only think in terms of what they want. They can't establish like real connection to people. They don't know what love is. They don't know what affection or friendship is. They only know that they're horny and they want to get laid, or they're angry and they want to kill someone. That's how a psychopath thinks. So I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, that's why when they see that, I don't know, Captain America and Bucky are friends, they instantly think they're gay. Cap wants to fuck back. They're not gay. They're just normal people having a normal relationship. They're friends. Don't you understand what that means? No, because I'm a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just, and it's funny you mentioned that. It's like, even look at their comics where they're making fun of Comicsgate and things like that. Like, for instance, here's one. Give me a sec. I'm trying to get it to pop back up. Screen share. And screen 2. Share. Jupe. This.
Oh yeah, Vercano.
Like, and it's pretty much all it is this. There's so many comics like this where they're just a bunch of violence against someone who disagrees with what they said, and it's needless violence against people who disagreed with what they said. You know what I mean? And then they sit there and go, why don't people think we're funny? Why do people say we're a bunch of violent authoritarians? We're not violent. God, you stupid white male.
Yeah, no, they're abusive people. I always say that living with a feminist or with an SJW is like living with an abusive partner. They will abuse you, at least verbally, if they think you're wrong. They won't even bother having a conversation with you, trying to convince you you're just stupid or evil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's unfortunate that these individuals, it goes back to something I saw where I didn't watch the video. I really should have, and I have been trying to find it again. But it was, why are geek circles so easily infiltrated by SJWs? That's what it was. Something along those lines.
Because we're insecure.
Yep.
And we want to be liked, and we want to get laid.
And we're welcoming.
Well,
yeah, that's true.
what it is. We're welcoming. We all understand what it's like to be on the opposite end of someone, or the wrong end of someone's, I guess you could say, vitriol, just bad behavior, things like that. That we've all experienced it. So why are we going to be mean to someone for just, you know what I mean, doing their own thing? I'm not going to be...
You got a point. Maybe that's why they always insist on the whole bullying aspect. I've been bullied by my race. They've been bullied because of my gender. You're just being called stupid because you're saying... yeah, I mean, that's what they insist on, the whole bullying part. I guess they want to push our buttons, so to speak.
They know what it is. They want to not push our buttons. They want to use our kind-hearted nature. See, we as I've stated time and again, we try to emulate the heroes that we have grown up reading in our comic books and things of the such, in the various sci-fi and geek entertainment that we've consumed. Because of that, we do not like it when people are bullied. We do not like bullies. We do not like, when someone is belittled for just being different and so on and so forth. We don't like it. And so they play on that by going, oh, well, we're being oppressed. These individuals are treating us bad. And to your normie, comic book guy, geek guy that's really uninitiated into what's really going on within the realm of comic books, or within the realms of like Star Trek fandom, Star Wars fandom, things of the such, all they see is someone being so red in the face, furious with these individuals, with these SJWs, and just like constantly, I guess you could say, going for, like my comment earlier about Sandwich Boy and how he takes donations all over his back. That's all they see. They see that brief bit. They don't see the build-up, the constant abuse that the SJWs did, the insults, the belittling, and so on and so on.
Yeah, yes. Again, that's Ren's usual MO. She will push you. She will insult you. She will try and push your buttons. And when you snap back and you tell her, "Just fuck off, cunt," something like that, she will just...
I'm being oppressed.
Yeah, no, she will screen cap that and this is comics.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, that's why I'm a firm believer in what we're doing here right now with, the making jokes, the having fun, like SJ Marty, Humble Marty, SJW's are tonic salesman. Ain't that the fucking truth. Snake oil salesman, a lot of them. Take, for instance, Kwanzaa and his book White that wants 40,000.
He, a part of me, it just, you gotta respect Kwanzaa's like balls. Just to he
Good
is
fuck.
he has such nerve. Like he really is like the most shameless guy. Like I kind of respect it in a way because like asking for $40,000. Oh man, that cracked me up when I saw that.
Hey guys, just an update here. 255 with 90 backers, so 2 more people.
Ooh.
Nice.
Man,
that?
awesome. Man, that is really awesome. Thank you so
This
much.
is probably being our most productive hangout, right?
Yeah, man. The Bob is giving us the hookup. He's
You a
the
beer,
meeting
Bob?
of the minds audience is very generous.
Well, I wish I could say it was me. I think it's just people appreciate your book, and let's be honest, Iron Sights is. I think Iron Sights is well received from everything I've heard. I haven't had the opportunity to read it personally, but from what I've heard, it was well received and people liked it and they liked the art. So you have that. I mean, and at the same time, millennials, which I'm behind on millennials. Sorry, Michael.
Oh, I'm behind on millennials, so don't worry. I haven't. Oh man, I don't think I've updated this year actually.
Oh, wow.
Once the campaign's done and for the abductables and everybody has their books and that's the smoke clears on that, I really want to finish millennials. Like I want to get because there is a definitive ending that I want to get to, and I really want to. If anybody doesn't know, millennials is my webcomic that's on my blog. But yeah,
and may I say, if you like books like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, you will like this. You'll like Millennials. It's very much in that same vein. The artwork lends itself to the storytelling. It's very tongue-in-cheek, very... the humor is very unique to it. And if you don't enjoy things like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and things that make you kind of think, I guess you could say a look at our society, because that's one thing I liked about millennials. It was putting society on its head, taking modern culture, putting it on its head, and telling it through the eyes of pretty much a modern day hitman that takes advantage of modern technology to do that.
Yeah, and obviously my artwork isn't the best, but one of my goals with the project is once it's complete, I'd love to give it the One Punch Man treatment and have like a legit artist like redraw everything and possibly maybe print it out in like a single volume. But yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because that Millennials is definitely something that I want to finish at some point. And it's sad because like I stopped updating just because I got so busy. Like right after I finally was able to monetize my blog, so it's like, man, I could be getting some ad revenue right now, but I just don't have time for it right now to update. But
but Millennials is a good book for those who have, or a good web series for those who haven't checked it out. I would definitely suggest it. Yeah, give me a second and I'll drop the link in the description.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think there's 9 chapters out now. I mean, I already have everything planned out, and the script for the next one's written. It's just finding time to actually sit down and draw it is pretty hard. But like I said, once the Abductables is finished, I'll probably try to devote some more time to it.
I hope you do. I mean, it's one of those rare stories that come along that you can kind of connect to, because like one of the themes I've noticed, and not trying to give anything away for those who haven't read Millennials, But one of the things I've noticed is how the current generation has become so disenfranchised, partly because modern technology.
Yeah, and at least for me, like part of the writing process of millennials was just coming to terms with the fact that everybody, it's fun to crap on millennials and oh, they're lazy, they don't do anything, they're weak, they were coddled, the coddled generation. It's like I agree with all those things and I kind of hate the millennial generation, but at the same time I am a millennial, so I have to like come to terms with the fact that I like my generation is kind of everything that people say it is.
Well,
And where do we go from there,
well, like Generation Z, the ones after us, mind you,
Mm-hmm.
they're reversing the trend. See, up to us,
Yes.
each generation was becoming more progressive, becoming a lot more left-leaning. Generation Z is the first generation in at least 100 years that is going the exact opposite direction, according to uh, basically all the research and everything. They're becoming more uh, conservative. They're more likely to be Republican. You're seeing more students join the various young Republican found groups and things like that. And a lot of these same people are it's partly because of the fact that children are naturally rebellious. Leading up to this point, the past up till about 2008, in a lot of ways conservatives had so much control of the culture because of the boomers and the church and things like that. And now you have a situation where it's reversed. Liberals have complete control of the
Mm-hmm.
culture. Complete. Like they had control of it to an extent. Sub Santa Raven. Welcome. But they had control of the culture via Hollywood music and things like that, but they didn't have control of the culture in the sense of like religion and things like that. So they made religion obsolete. It's what is it? Nietzsche uh, mentioned about how man killed God.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, God is dead.
Yeah, well, we're seeing the millennials are the first generation where they really expanded upon that in the way they did. And now you're seeing Generation Z try to overcorrect and be like, nope, nope, we believe in God. We believe our society is going to shit. I need to help, help.
Well, another thing is these are the kids that were born with the internet, so they've had the internet their entire lives, and there's no lying on the internet. Like we get footage of everything you can imagine that's ever that happens all around the world. So any lie that the mainstream media has been telling us for so long, it's not going to work anymore because they can lie all they want, but the truth is there for everybody to see on the internet.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was a recent. I was watching. Because I do. My background is biblical studies, and I was actually listening to the one pastor, and he was talking about like the churchgoers. He said, the parents' generation, my generation. I'm a Gen Xer. They said like church attendance is like 50 some percent, and they said like millennials, like the average millennial church going is like 13%. And then they were talking about Gen Z actually being about back up to about 30%.
Mm-hmm.
So the shift is definitely there, and I've said it time and time again. There's a moral compass in this country that doesn't like to swing too far in either direction. It likes to stay in the middle for the most part. And every generation, when one overcorrects way too much, the next generation will re-answer that and kind of force it back.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes once again to it's an issue of. It's why the term Zennial exists. Zennial is basically, I think a lot of us fall under the Zennial, if like because of the fact that we had a digital childhood, and if I remember right, the cutoff for Zennial is like 85 or 87, one of the two. It's the cutoff. You're not fully a millennial, but you're not
A Gen Xer like me.
yeah.
Mm.
You're in this weird balance between the two because of the fact that, like I said, you had like you can remember when growing up as a kid, 3.5 millimeter discs could destroy the world. You know what I mean? Floppy disk could Shredder talking in the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the machines that required the floppy.
Yeah, basically, if you watch Tron as a kid, you're in that no man's land.
Yep. And whereas full millennials, they had more of the digital. Like that's why I think pretty much the 80s, if you're born in the 80s, you're not a millennial. That's like my personal view on it. Because of the fact that the culture in the 80s, like if you born in the 80s, grew up in the 80s, going into the 90s, you had a different perspective entirely because there was a cultural shift that happened in the 80s, the late 80s going into the 90s, a severe cultural shift where, you started to see the rise of gangster rap. You started to see a lot more, I guess you could say that there was a lot more cross-pollination of various cultures within America.
I think the 90s were the time of movies like Last Action Hero or Demolition Man. While the 80s were the age of Rambo and Predator and all of this straight out actioners. The 90s were like the deconstructionist phase of the culture in which they would make fun of what came before.
Yeah, exactly. Like movies like Scream that deconstructed the slasher movie, which was so huge in the 80s.
Well, yeah, you look at Demolition Man, that is a complete deconstruction of the action star, starring Stallone, and of all people, that was a complete deconstruction of that whole element because both those characters were both the hero and the villain were out of their element in that time period.
Yep. And not to mention, you also in the 90s, you saw more 89, but if I remember right, Die Hard was like 88, 89, the first one. But
no, I think Die Hard, the first one was actually before that.
I think it's 88. It's
definitely late 80s.
It's after Predator. Predator is 87. Predator was
88.
First American movie. 88, right?
88.
There you go.
But that's where you started to really see the shift in the action movie genre because Bruce Willis wasn't like Stallone. He wasn't like Schwarzenegger. He wasn't like, Lundgren. He was very much your everyman. He was remember me mentioning about how the whole part of what works with South Park is how it's everyman, but in a town form. He was the one he was the epitome of the everyman action star. Because he wasn't built like a brick shit house. I mean, he was in shape, but he wasn't built like Arnold or Schwarzenegger, Lundgren, or any of the other ones. He didn't have like the hardcore martial arts training like Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris, various other Brandon Lee. He didn't have any of that. He was just your average everyday guy put into a situation that required him to do extraordinary things.
And late 80s, like very late 80s, early 90s, or the whole 90s really, like that's when the action movie became self-aware. And I just kind of realized that comics like beat the movies to that. Like comics became self-aware in the 80s with all the deconstruction and the self-referential stuff. But yeah, you didn't really see that in Hollywood until the 90s,
comic book readers were always smarter than the average movie watcher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like take Kick-Ass for instance. The reason why in the comic book, the reason why Kick-Ass doesn't get the girl, and in the movie, the reason why he does is Mark Miller said it, basically to a T. He said moviegoers don't have patience for things like that, whereas comic book readers, how many times have Peter Parker, Mary Jane been on again, off again? How many times has Superman and Lois Lane been on again, off again? How many times has this?
Yeah, I think this brings us back to what we said before about nerds being used to being rejected and being bullied and all that. So we can deal with it. We can deal with sort of stuff. But moviegoers are regular people. Moviegoers are normies, so they don't take that shit so easy.
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question, Gorgonite, because it's the usual sporadic jumping around that is meeting of the mind, somehow coming back to the original point of the topic, the point of the episode, but then going off on a tangent. You know, just how we do, how we do.
Wouldn't
Well, keep in
happen any
mind,
other way.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, and like one of the things I've been really thinking about, bouncing off of a lot of the regulars that have YouTube channels that are on Meeting of the Minds that I've been contemplating doing, and you know, this is the first that everyone's going to hear of it. I've been thinking about turning Meeting of the Minds into, instead of it being strictly just like mine or something Sport does and whatnot, to all the usual YouTubers that come on. Like, for instance, Matt, Ninja, you know, Canales, you have a YouTube channel that you do a lot with, last time I checked.
I try when I have the time, and I'm not dead by the bronchitis.
Yes, I understand. Like, you know, turning Meeting of the Minds into a roaming show where if you're part of the Meeting of the Minds family, if you will, you will like we take turns hosting it, and this will allow different people a chance to have control over the episode. Because let's be honest, if y'all don't keep me in check, I will talk for 5 hours about politics and culture and everything, just dealing with them. Like,
I think that's
Yeah, and
part of the appeal, though. You go off on the tangents, and it's I like it.
well, it's once again, it's like I said, beware, kids. This is what happens when you read books.
You know, there's a big difference between your version and my version. My version, I tend to stay on the more topic line of, you know, the comics and stuff like that, where you kind of bring in a lot of different elements. So it is a different format, and I have to agree with Michael. I like that.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing about Meeting of the Minds is that we don't just talk about one thing; we talk about many things, and it gets dynamic, and it's not boring at all.
Well, and that was one of the things I was really wanting to go for, is that I wanted it to be more than just a comic show. I wanted it to be, because like okay, we've all seen the live streams. Like, one of the biggest things I hate about the big streams, the quote unquote high council streams, is the fact that it's they will like stick to the same subject, but like they don't try to let the conversation flow. It's, if it starts going off into anything that might be nuanced or so on and so forth. I swear I've seen Ethan shut, like the handful of live streams, mind you, that I've seen Ethan shut it down and rein it in. And so, no, let that conversation be had. You might gain some new knowledge from that. And this is one of the things that drives me nuts about the other side of the comics, if you will, the
Well,
SJW
that's the
side.
problem with the Jedi, isn't it? They're just stuck up. The good thing about us, scum and villainy guys, is that we can do whatever the hell we want.
Hey, that's the best way to be. It's, but the point I'm making is you can learn. One of the things that bothered me about like the SJW side of comics and SJWs in general, if you are basically, if you do not have any check marks in the impression checklist, you can't talk about anything. It's like, no, nuance knows no form. You might be just that casual observer that sees something that someone else with a quote unquote lived experience doesn't. And that's why I despise that term. Don't say lived experience, because all lived experience is saying is, I have nothing to rebut what you're saying with. So I'm going to deflect with, well, you lack the lived experience.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like saying your truth instead of the truth, Yeah, well, that's how I perceive things. Yeah, that doesn't mean it's the truth.
Exactly. And that's why to me, that's what I try to make meetings of the mind about. It's like, look, we can all disagree. We could all be half frothing at the mouth, trying to get our point in and whatnot, saying how much we disagree. But when the stream's done, we're all still cool. We're all still having a good time, laughing and joking.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. That's what we've lost, unfortunately, as everybody gets more radicalized on both sides. it's impossible to just have a difference of opinion. Like everything's life or death. Everything. It's the end of the world if someone doesn't agree with you on a certain thing. I don't know how we reverse that, but yeah.
Well, we just need to keep in mind how we used to be, back in, I don't know, 2012, when we would make fun of the Westboro Baptist Church as we made fun of feminists and communists and all that, because we were somewhere in the middle, and we just thought that everyone else was insane.
Well,
Yeah.
what happened is it's funny because I can actually explain what happened culturally. See, when you go into and a lot of people don't like this, and I stand by the statement, and I've stood by it for years. When the culture war becomes a full-blown second civil war here in America, the second civil war will be directly able to be traced back to Obama. And nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to actually sit there and be like, and they always deflect it. Well, that's racist. No, you saying everything is racist, saying everything is sexist, allowing Obama to deflect, or members of his cabinet deflect with every trouble that happened, every scandal and so on and so forth that happened under his watch. Oh, well, that's you're just being racist. You're just being sexist. Yet you have individuals like myself who have been consistent on the things that we do not like that our government is doing, consistently said we don't like identitarianism pushed by members of our government because we understand how destructive it is. And Obama took the idea of intersectionality, which is if you do not have these check boxes of oppression, then you need to shut up, and took it mainstream. Him and his like people go, oh, Obama never said anything. No, Obama was smart. He knew how to say something without saying it. He knew how, if you listen to his speech patterns, you could tell the man had a dictionary and a thesaurus at his side when he wrote his speeches.
Yeah, I was never an SJW, but I was I'd call myself a back in the day like a Bill Maher type of liberal, progressive. Way back when, I voted. I'm ashamed to admit I actually voted for Obama the first time.
Don't be.
Oh, come on! Don't lie. Now, come on.
No,
forgive me, but
don't be. This is how I look at it. Obama's 2008. Obama was campaigning on anti-interventionism, getting our healthcare system under control, fixing the problems that, the various, one of the things he said on the campaign trail in 2008 was, I want to remove the powers of the executive branch and return it to Congress. Do any of you remember that campaign promise that he very quickly disregarded? And that's the whole thing. So if you can't say it's as simple as Canales said, 2012, where everyone got along. No, we were already having this problem, and these same conversations then. It's just that it hadn't moved from the back burner to the front burner the way it has now. You were already seeing intersectionality in comics and various things. You were already seeing you saw the horizon and saw what was happening, but you're like, no, I'm just seeing things. That's not what's really going on. And then you got into this last election, and everyone was like, okay, man, come on, seriously. That I know for a fact that's not a mirage now. I know I'm not seeing things, man. Come on, man. Don't take it there. Don't take it there. I don't want to go, man.
You're right, though. Obama, he's really good at conveying, well, not conveying his true message, but just the way he communicates. Even now, I'm as far right as I've ever been, but listening to Obama, it's there's just something about him that's he sounds so reasonable, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and he's so level-headed. It's man, I want to believe this guy, but it's like you said, like there's what he said and what he did. You know, his actions were different than what his words were. So
Oh yeah.
Here's my view on it. It's the cult of personality.
Yes.
Honestly, I think the cult of personality started with George Bush Jr. because he got elected because of his daddy, and then he or really we can even go back to Clinton. I mean, the Clintons had a huge personality. And then pretty much every president since then, it's a cult of personality. It was that way with the Bushes, it was that way with Obama, and it's that way with Trump. So, and the next one is going to flop in. They're going to be the same way. So, and one could even go back to Reagan a little bit too, because he had his own personality cult too. So it's really everything with the last. Since I've been a kid, has been really dominated by these cult of personalities, and that's what I think. People aren't stopping to think about what is really going on, who they're electing. Yeah, I know the president doesn't make all the choices. I think the problem with elections at every level, we got a Congress that is actually worse than the president, and nobody talks about that. They talk about the president's 41% approval rating, yet Congress has a 12% approval rating.
Yep. That's very true. Very true. And it's like, really, you want to fix the problem? Like, and see, the quote-unquote Justice Democrats, Chuck Yeager's Democrats that he was trying to push and so on and so forth, that AOC, Alin Amar and Rashida Tlaib are part of. Like, those Democrats, that group, mind you, they were, like, three, I think, for sure, that made it, that got elected, and out of the 80 progressive Justice Democrats that they had pushed, only 7 of them got the primary, and only like I said, the 3 of them, I do believe, actually got elected. And what's sad about that is we have a situation where these progressive Democrats are being propped up by the establishment because of the fact that they think, keyword here, think that's where everyone's going. Now, if you look at the current 2020 lineup for presidential candidates, it's like it is a goddamn shit show. It's a dumpster fire in action, and everyone's just kind of busting out their popcorn. Looking at the guy next to you, say, "Hey man, I got my flask, some fucking vodka in it. You want a little bit? Yeah, I got you, man. Oh man, we're gonna be buzzed. We got our popcorn. We're good. We're good." What? I can't believe AOC said that, and she's not even running for president, and everyone's agreeing with it. This is great.
Well, she is very easily the dumbest person in Congress. Dumbest person in the country.
I say at least 85% of the people that are in Congress are about as dumb as a bunch of rocks. Oh. You would half the laws that are being made and passed wouldn't really fly in realistically with these people if they were actually in touch with their constituents.
Very true. They're actually in touch with their constituents, but it's why money in politics is such a big problem. It's why I agree with doing it's. If you look at a lot of the modern conservatives, a lot of people there is a bunch of people who are socially liberal but fiscally conservative. And so means there's a lot of people in that group that believe that things like Citizens United should be repealed. Corporations are not people. I honestly firmly believe that our campaign laws need to be updated and need to be heavily fixed, because why would these individuals do what their constituents want when it's not their constituents that are going to fill their coffers for re-election?
Well, here's why. It was the change in the 21 or 22nd Amendment where it was no longer the representatives of the state picking the senators. When it became about anybody from any district could basically donate to me, and I think that's bullshit. If you are not in Alabama, you have no right and no say on who the senators from Alabama are.
Exactly. That's real talk, and that's common sense, straight common sense. But once again,
But hey, welcome to 2019, where everything's upside down.
all right. Oh my God, ain't that the truth? And may I say that I guess that's one of the reasons why I enjoy the fact that we can talk about these things and whatnot. We live in a country where we can have honest, nuanced discussions, but the problem is we have one side that's actually trying to shut down the conversation and suppress the conversation. And the irony of the situation is it used to be the side, the used to be the Republicans that were trying to do it. Now it's the ones that were like all about free speech, all about maintaining our our freedoms and things like that are ones doing it. Once again, 2019, upside down world. It's like who in Congress other than Nancy Pelosi decided to start smoking crack? Do we need to start piss testing you, motherfucker?
I think you all smoking crack, bro. Just caught up to them.
Right? Fuck.
Although I say Nancy Pelosi is probably more on crystal meth than anything.
Actually, from what I've like, mind you, this is not my theory. This is coming from several people. Nancy Pelosi seems to be showing signs of dementia, and she should not be like Speaker of the House, let alone a congresswoman. All right, but at the same time, if you look at Reagan, the end of his second term, it was getting dicey because you could see his dementia and Alzheimer's catching up with him too.
Well, yeah, that last speech he did when he was sitting in front of, making that televised speech, I remember that. As a kid, I was, I was 12 years old, I think, in '88. His outgoing, his outgoing speech there before Bush took over, Bush Senior took over. I think it's probably the January his last speech, and you could tell that he was having a hard time doing and reading that stuff. There was a lot of times where there's a lot of speculation that Nancy, the last 2 years of his presidency, ran a lot of stuff because he had such a hard time.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. I mean, we have a bunch of individuals, though, in authority who are, which is a funny thing in the Democratic Party, just alone, you have the progressives and the old school Democrats and whatnot, and they're fighting each other. Once again, dumpster fire, shit show. Grab your popcorn, grab your drink, sit down, plop a squat. I hope you brought lawn chairs because we're going to be here for a while. If you got them, if you got them doobies, spark them because you're gonna need. This is gonna be great, and you quite frankly could. I'm just saying, it's just gonna make it better. Just gonna make it better. It's going to make the 2016 Republican primaries look tame.
Yeah, 2020 is gonna be very interesting, to say the least.
Right.
I just can't wait to see all the SJW mass suicides after Trump won the second term.
Oh man, it's gonna be a great sequel to 2016. It's gonna be very enjoyable.
Well, I guess I'll be the elephant in the room because I don't believe Trump will win the. I don't think he'll win 2020. That's just my view.
Oh man, really?
Yeah, well, I think, honestly, I think what's going to end up happening, and I don't think it's going to come down to him making the choice. They're just going to come up with shit to get him out. No matter what.
That they've been trying like crazy his entire presidency. So unless they come up with something better by 2020, I don't know what's going to change.
And on top of that, you have to take into account they can't field anybody that's strong enough to be able to win the general election against him.
The only person that really who's going to do it, and they're going to sabotage him from the get-go, is Bernie Sanders.
Nope. Bernie Sanders, because two things is why Bernie Sanders will not win. One, Bernie Sanders got into speaking. See, 2016, open borders was a Koch brothers scheme. 2015, 2016, Bernie understood that there's a difference between that gun laws are a nuanced situation because you have difference between urban and rural areas and what they require. It's an urban and rural, conversation. Bernie then understood while being far left, don't get me wrong, and this is coming from a guy who almost voted for him. I'm full disclosure. All right.
You burnster.
Bernie,
Whatever.
bro.
Yeah, whatever. Not hurting my feelings none because, quite frankly, live and learn. It's one of those. Had he won the general, everyone's saying he would have won, or had he won the primary, he would have won against Trump. I'm unsure, but it would have been better than Hillary. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who switched from Bernie's camp to Trump's camp because they were both talking about a lot of the same things. No trade.
Well, I mean, and it come hell or high water, they never wanted to. They were never going to vote for Hillary whatsoever. I mean, there was no way. I mean, give it to me. I guess I'm probably the oldest guy here out of everybody here. I'm 43. I remember what it was like growing up with the Clintons. I knew what they lied and stuff like that. Do you think she was going to have any chance with people my age? Hell no, she wasn't going to have a chance. She had to rely on that younger generation. They weren't going to buy into her bullshit, which is why they had to rig the whole primary.
Pokemon go to the polls.
Yeah.
And the illusion's over. Like Bernie had so much momentum in 2016, but after there's so many disillusioned Bernie bros, and it's like he kind of has the reputation of a sellout now. So there's just not going to be half of the support for him that there was in 2016.
Not to mention, you already have the legacy media coming out and doing everything that they can to smear him.
Yeah, they're gonna throw him under the bus again. It's obvious that they want Beto to be the guy. So
Beta,
whatever.
I was thinking they were going to go more Kamala Harris.
It's either going to be Kamala. It's going to be Kamala.
If they're stupid, they would.
Well, there should be either way.
Well, see, it's either mind you, if Biden doesn't jump in the race, because Biden can still technically jump in the race all the way on up until he has, if I remember right, like till spring of next year to decide if he wants to get into the race.
That would be their smartest move, because he would be like, as much as people love Trump, like he truly, way more than Obama ever did, he actually does represent real change. So to all the people who are uncomfortable with the chaos that's going on, I could definitely see them voting for Biden as like a return to the way things were, before
traditional democratic values and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he would definitely be their best bet.
Here's the problem with that. First off, you have all the memes about creepy Biden, has overtouched.
and Trump is going to bring that up too.
But the other thing though too is the average person doesn't care about memes.
Well, no, but here's the other thing that I was about to point out. People could look at Biden being the fact that he was Obama's Veep. They will look at him and go, and this is straight from Six X and Hammer. The dynastic aspect of Biden, while yes, appealing to a lot of Obama supporters within the Democrat Party that are far left, will not have the same view from those who have either been disenfranchised because of the actions of the far left, and will end up that they are more likely to support Trump at this point because of the fact that the far left has forgotten about middle America, about the Rust Belt, about the factory workers and things of such. And let's be honest, Biden didn't stop Obama because what did Obama do? Obama continued the practice of allowing the economy to get shipped overseas to overseas factories. Whereas under Trump, these factory workers are seeing their jobs slowly return. And
yeah, the Democrats don't have word one to say about the working class anymore. Like, that's not even on their top 10 list of platforms. So they just couldn't care less about the working class, which is ironic because everyone, when Trump was running, it's like, oh, he's this this callous billionaire who doesn't care about anybody, just wants to get rich. It's like, and then he turned out to be like the representative of the common working man, you know?
Well, he understands the simple rule. If you don't have people making money to be able to buy things, there's nothing that you can sell them
Yeah.
that they can afford, because it's one of the big things that drives me nuts when people, like, a lot of people argue that, oh well, the $15 an hour pay wage is impossible. It's like, for some businesses, yes. If it's a small mom and pop shop, no, they won't be able to afford that. But if it's a big multi-billion-dollar corporation, for instance, like Walmart could afford it and then some. If Walmart were to hire on people at $15 an hour, instead of giving them 10% off stuff, purchases in store, give them 20% off, completely cover their medical and dental and things like that starting, all right? Mind you, all this is freeing up money for their employees, and there's a reason why you go with the 20% off of in-store purchases for employees. They are now going to take that $15 an hour. They're going to buy all their groceries there at Walmart. They're going to buy all their, basically toiletries and things of the such there at Walmart. They're going to buy all their entertainment needs from Walmart, video games, DVDs, TVs, things like that. They're going to buy it there. Why? Because one, they have the money, and two, they have that 20% discount. They don't have to worry about their health, their medical, dental, and optical, because of the fact that it's already covered with them working, which gives them even more money to spend within Walmart. And then that same money that they don't spend there goes to like their rent or whatever, and also other businesses within the community helping their helping their profit margins rise as well. But that won't happen if, and only if, Walmart is willing to take the initial month to 2 month hit that they'll take in profits. And that's the thing. You have to take that. It's short term versus long term. And these businesses are constantly thinking, these big multi-billion-dollar corporations are constantly thinking short-term versus long-term. Yes, short-term, you'll lose some money. Long-term, you will see record-breaking years of sales, because your employees have the money to not just support Walmart and be able to buy things at Walmart because of the changes you've made, but also at the same time, they're helping other businesses grow, which are giving those employees the opportunity to come in and spend money at Walmart because of the fact that they are, you get the idea. And Walmart, being the fact that it has gone into several communities and completely destroyed the small businesses there, the mom and pop shops in these small communities. So once again, they have basically a monopoly of the resources in their town. By doing that, they are ensuring that these stores will not just make a profit, but will make a bigger profit than what they were making beforehand.
Well said.
I'm just saying, it's simple. It's like I said, it's long-term, short-term versus long-term. And a lot of people look at, especially amongst businesses, they look at the short-term gains and losses, not the long-term gains and losses.
Yeah.
Once again, kids, avoid books. You'll end up like me.
Yeah, I don't want to be too smart.
It's
Read comic books; they'll rot your brain.
Exactly. Starting with the Abductables. Starting with the Abductable. Go to Indiegogo now. Back it now.
I feel like I have to push my other Indiegogo campaign, the next answer one. But I don't know.
That one just launched recently, right?
It launched yesterday, and it's not doing too bad either. We already have, let me check, 10 backers in one day. It's not too bad. We have 2 months. We have 2 months to go. Jacob has been smart, and he didn't want to, step on the Abductable toes.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's I don't know. There's probably some opportunity for some cross promotion or something. We got to figure something out,
Especially same artist. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I don't know. We'll have to come up with something, but
I mean, you got
Yeah.
you got the same artist. I think to me that would be a good crossover. Is that the Necromancer Tombstone Blues?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, or, you're looking at two artists. Same artist on the same project. So yeah. And by the way, I mean your art. But between these two projects, I mean, dude, Canales, I got to give you props, bro. You're killing it.
Thank you.
You're getting better, and I'm pleased to see that. Hopefully, maybe we're on the way down the road. When we're cool enough to work with you guys.
Uh, and
Oh,
I'm just a newbie. I mean, the main reason why I got better at drawing it's because I suddenly found myself down into the mix with guys like EVS or Mike or veteran DC comic book artists and whatnot, and Artie Bird, and I was like, oh Jesus, I really need to step up my game. Know what I mean? I better watch me
yeah.
some tutorials and actually watching EBS helped me a lot. And yeah, just watching his how to, his everyone can draw videos helped me a lot. So yeah, thanks for noticing.
Yeah, and that's what people don't understand is EVS. Obviously he's like at the top of the mountain of this whole Comicsgate thing, but the dude is a 26-year veteran of the industry. He's been so it's not these younger campaigns or these younger creators, these newer guys like myself, and it's like we're just getting started. So I don't know. I think some people have their expectations are a little too high. They think, oh well, if EVS can make six figures, I can do that like in the same rate he can. It's like no, he's built his reputation over 2 decades plus. So don't be discouraged if you're not an overnight success because
He has an inbuilt audience. I mean, he already
yeah,
comes with
exactly. He's got 100,000 YouTube subscribers. He's got 26 years in the industry. Like there's a reason why he's the number one guy. So
Yeah.
And it's one of those, love him, hate him, you have to give the man credit. He's done his time, and now he's reaping the rewards of his time. And it's one of those, put your time in the industry, and hopefully you'll be rewarded as such. But at the same time, it's one of those, like you said, don't get discouraged. And it's easy to get discouraged. Very easy to get discouraged.
Yeah, I think we may be suffering of a bit of over enthusiasm with the whole Comicsgate thing. Like we've seen Zack and EBS become really successful, and as you said, Michael, they're like, oh, it can be the next one. I mean, yeah, okay, the the ground is fertile for Indiegogo campaigns and for indie comics, but that doesn't mean each and every indie comic is going to be successful all of a sudden. You still have to,
yeah,
put in hard work and build an audience and all.
Well, it's one of those, like we were mentioning earlier about, Troy and Rags and so on and so forth, and how, like, even to an extent, the Abductables, because like I said, I think it was about 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, when Michael first mentioned the Abductables on a meeting of the minds that he was on, and he was slowly working on building up the name of the book, but he didn't have the same amount of time. Neither of y'all did that, like Troy or Brian had with these characters, and they didn't have the mind you, these are individuals that didn't have the name attached to them. Take Bravage, Kill All Men. That that wouldn't Benjamin would not have had as much luck with that comic if he didn't have Chuck Dixon writing it, for instance. If he didn't have names working on that book. You know what I mean? It's and look at how many books that got funded simply because they had EVS support. Blue Mamba, excellent book. But let's be honest.
I said the Ferryman.
Yep. Like I think even Jack Irons got EVS backing.
No? He was mentioned both. He was mentioned briefly, but not like like Sugar Lethal and stuff like that. And Canales can contest. Pretty much, Jax was all homegrown. He did everything himself.
which there's
Yeah,
some
no,
ways to get back
yeah,
on
yeah, no,
the
yeah, yeah,
stream.
yeah, yeah. Irons is another really deserved success because the guys behind it have been worked their asses off to build it up.
Hmm. And
And
it's
I know I feel like a lot of people they that come out with these Indiegogo campaigns. They think that well, all that matters is if I can get on Ethan's stream, then I'll just be instantly funded and everything will be great. It's like, yeah, like if don't get me wrong, I would love to be on Ethan's stream, and I think it would give us a huge boost to our numbers, but I can't count on that to happen. So
Yep.
I'm doing everything in my power to get us funded, regardless of if Ethan never even mentions the project. You know, like you gotta your plan has to be to do it for yourself and get your own audience and get yourself funded without you can't rely on people like Ethan to bring you up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't want to be known as nothing against Ethan or anything, but I don't want to just be known as the guy who got plucked by Ethan. Just I
Yeah.
don't want to be known as that guy who worked for Zack at some point, which I really enjoy doing, and I love the shit out of that guy. But I want to be known for my own effort, because I managed to pull it myself.
well, and really, let's be honest. Right now, the abductables, and no offense, Michael, but
Mhm.
it's mainly Canales. It's mainly your name that's everyone recognizes on the board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm essentially a nobody. Like this is my first. I have my web comics and. But this is like the first thing that I've actually, I'm charging money for. This is my first, like, essentially my debut, and to be doing so well, that's you got to give all credit to Canales for that, because he's just he is an established guy. Like
Hmm.
he is that name brand, kind of like you were saying with Chuck Dixon on Ravage. Like
Check
Canales
that
is
out.
the
I'm
selling
being
point.
compared to Chuck Dixon, dude. Wow, my ego soars.
Yeah. But the point is, though, when you're dealing with things like, comics, it helps if you have somebody on your project
Yep.
that's a name that
Yeah,
has
definitely.
established themselves within the group or has done something within the community to be able to get themselves, noticed. Like, take, for instance, Earthbound, another good book, another very good book.
Oh yeah.
Narwhal put that book out for ever and a day, just working on it on his own, and then decided, okay, it's finally gonna collect it together and put it into basically graphic novel format, maybe make some changes and whatnot, minor ones, cleaned it up a bit, and then he went and got it funded. But it was part of how he was able to get it funded was by building up his name first.
Yep.
And that's two ways that people can get their project funded. Like, and it helps to talk about it. It really does. I mean, come on, how Chuck's been working on Sporkman for months and was like trying his best to make it to where when the IGG dropped the first time, he was able to get it funded then. But unfortunately, it was just I think it was just bad timing, pure and simple.
Well, there was several different mistakes. I mean, we had, we were coming off of those really high campaigns, and also once again, we're very relatively unknown, even though we've been I've been in the community. I mean, Eric, on the other hand, I mean, I've been in the comics community, Comicsgate community since back before POTUS Stump got released. November of 2016, really one of the OGs, but I really wasn't like active per se. It wasn't until really then I started pushing, but still, I didn't have any big names attached to our project, and so I've been basically building everything for the last year, for the most part. So that's a big reason why we didn't get pushed, because really didn't take until like Jack put eyes on it, and a few other Sugar and or Slick and a few others put eyes on the project, that we really started getting noticed. So,
And not to mention, part of one of the things you got going for you, which is, I think, Michael and Canales and Matt also have going for them, is y'all have good customer interaction. You're willing to talk
Yes.
to your fans. If someone goes and says, "Hey, I went and just bought, Sporkman, whatnot," showed it out, tagged you in it, you're going to respond. You're going to be like, "Thanks, Peter Smetty." You're going to do the Peter Smetty model, which is thank your fans for purchasing, or thank the fans for purchasing your book. And
I thought I wanted to dunk people's heads in their toilet and give them swirlies.
Right?
No, that's only if you work for the big two.
Oh, okay. Or the big three, Image, because that guy that told me that worked for Image. So
right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that really is the core of Comicsgate. The original idea behind it is just, it at its heart, it is a consumer revolt. It is about fans being tired of being treated bad by the pros and told to go to hell when they say that their product is not up to the standard that they want. And yeah, that's what creators like us have to offer, is like, we actually listen to our fans, we actually interact with them, we don't look down on them the way that big two creators do, or even Image guys. Like we don't think we're better than anybody. We're not up our own ass as, oh, I'm the artiste, so you just have to listen to what I say. Yeah, so
And
I mean we're just fans like everybody else. Like that's why we're doing this. That's why we're making comics, because we love comics and we want to make them. And we can't say the same about a lot of the people working in the mainstream.
No, and it's not just that. I mean, what you have here is a situation where, as the old expression goes, you can track flies with honey quicker than you can vinegar. Or was it bees? I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah. And it's like it never even would have. It's not like this was some, like, I know Zach is like the guy that really got a lot of traction talking about this stuff, but it's like, it even before Comicsgate and Move the Needle and all this stuff, like, it never, when I was just a guy that wanted to be a comic book creator one day, it never would have occurred to me to talk bad to my customers, like, it wouldn't even have been a thought that crossed my mind. It's not something that I needed to be told.
Yeah, I mean, Zach said that when he tried to get into comics in the 1990s, that he gave up because he thought that comic book people are the worst people on earth.
Yeah.
So apparently this has been going on forever. I mean, comic book artists apparently are assholes by default.
Yeah, it's it attracts some weird people, that's for sure.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, think about it. The artist is the rock star. It doesn't matter how great your story is. If you have a shitty artist, like, if it doesn't complement the story, your comic's going to be DOA. Period.
I think they probably just got a little too comfortable, like, because back in the 60s, like, Stan Lee, like, he's the epitome of great customer service. Like, Stan's soapbox and the letters columns and the way he would do interviews, like, he was all about the fans. Like, I mean, they would literally talk to the fans in the comic book itself, like, through the captions. So I mean, but then you get to like the 70s going into the 80s, and you get these like rock star creators from the British invasion.
I think that yeah, that's a good point. I think the whole thing began to go to hell. I keep saying that when the comic book authors saw themselves as as authors, as artists, instead of just workers. As Zach puts it, as hot dog vendors. They began to see themselves as these guys who are going to revolutionize culture and are like going to elevate the medium and whatnot. Dude, it's just about custom people beating the shit out of each other. Chill.
Yeah, they started to believe their own hype, and then once the sales started to decline, they're like, "Well, wait a minute, I'm awesome. Why aren't you buying my books?"
Well,
I think it's partly because the creators that came after them thought they were just like these people, but they like one thing: talent.
Yes, that's a great point, because like guys like Grant Morrison and Alan Moore, like whether or not their egos were big, at the very least they could back it up with great stories and books that actually sold. So you could give them more leeway than a lot of the people that think that they're on Grant Morrison level, and then they're putting out freaking comics like Squirrel Girl.
Oh yeah, and on top of that, you have like, and everyone knows my favorite X-Men, writer, Chris Claremont. He knew how to write stories that were captivating. He knew how to have story arcs within story arcs within story arcs, to where it's kind of like Inception, but with story arcs. So Storyception, sure, we'll go with that. and that got people interested, because you would have one thing going on. I truly believe Chris Claremont, once again, the but therefore rule. Because if you look at a lot of those old comics and a lot of the books, I'd say up until you started getting the SJW writers involved, they all had, you could I bet you follow the but therefore rule. It wasn't and then, it was but or therefore. There was always there was a cause and effect with everything that happened in the story. I mean, take for instance the 90s and the marriage of Superman and Lois Lane. At the time, Superman had lost his powers. There was a solar, or was it a solar eclipse? Remember right? Yes, there was a solar eclipse. Therefore, Superman lost his powers, but Metropolis still needs saving. Therefore, Superman is still going to do his thing, but he's made a lot of friends in the Justice League. Therefore, they're going to help him save the day. But at the same time, he's got his marriage going on to Lois Lane. Therefore, he's going to be going on, honeymoon. Once again, prime example, and we're just doing the wedding of Superman. That's it.
Yeah, but you're describing the thought process of a normie writer, by which he understands that a character has to go through tribulations and overcome obstacles in order to be liked by the readers, because nobody likes a Mary Sue, nobody likes a Gary Stu. Only the creator of the Gary Stu's and the Mary Sue's likes them. But the whole problem about social justice warrior characters is that they're like Rey from Star Wars. So they're like Captain Marvel. They have nothing to learn. They have nothing to overcome. The only thing that they need to do is, get rid of these pesky men that try to stand in their way. They're more like villains than heroes, really.
Well, isn't that like, oh god, that'd be fun to get a hold of an SJW character now, because like it's like the whole bit that Zach did though with Riri Williams, where with Iron Man, where she basically
he got it right that time. I mean, Riri has the build of a villain. He's a villain. She's a villain. Sorry.
And at the same time, it would, man, like I guarantee you, just in the people that are in this hangouts right now, even Ninja, who's being quiet and probably handling his kids, which we understand.
Well, he's a ninja.
Yes. Yeah, I can't let them be noisy on stream. I just don't like that.
Healthy ninja.
But no, it's. I think everyone in this hangouts right now could handle these characters better than that. Okay, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. All right, Into the Spider-Verse. Also, spoilers, because apparently last week, Animator Josh is probably still mad at me for that. I didn't say spoilers. So, spoilers, everyone.
That's okay.
Basically, the Into the Spider-Verse fixed everything that was wrong in my eyes with Miles Morales. They made him his own character and made him an interesting character. Whereas when Bendis created him, Bendis just was like, I'm gonna make Black Peter Parker. Only thing different he's gonna have is an Asian friend. Yay! Diversity! Even though he literally palette swapped Ben Reilly with an Asian friend. And, like, Riri Williams, Bendis, once again, I'm gonna make a diverse character that's nobody's gonna like. At least this time he didn't make her Black Tony Stark. I will give him that. I will give him that. But he wrote her.
Well, we already had Black. We had War Machine with Black Iron Man.
Yeah, but Rhodes is a soldier. He's
War Machine was already diverse. What happened to Rhodey? Oh, that's right, he died.
This is, I think that's the biggest problem I have with Riri Williams. It's pretty much the problem everyone has. I agree. I agree on that. You guys remember the 90s when? Do you remember the 90s, little boy or girl?
the 90s what?
Yeah, sorry.
That's
When,
one.
when they had
The
Jean
cheapest
Paul Valley take over the Batman mantle.
It's so cute.
This is why I'm muted so often.
Yes, yes, we understand. But as you're trying to say, Canales,
Yeah, no. Remember the 90s when they had Jean Paul Valley take over the Batman name.
and
It
nobody
was,
liked him.
yeah, nobody liked him because he was a fucking psychopath, which he was depicted as such. He wasn't depicted as a hero. He was a psychopath. He was borderline a serial killer, and nobody liked him because they felt like he took over what should have belonged to Dick Grayson as the
Yep.
new Batman. And that's a problem I have with Riri Williams. It should have been Rhodey. Rhodey's
Oh.
been there from day one.
He did.
Same,
Well,
it's literally
Brody
one-
did take over for a time.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you're
In
going
the
to make a new Iron Man series, just give it to Rhodey. I mean,
Yeah.
like Rose is the new Iron Man officially now.
Well, then you have at the same time the fact that they just made her they made her a Mary Sue, made her unlikable, made her a villain, made her everything that she took over Latveria. I'm sorry. Let's see. Them try to get away with having any other hero take over Latveria. If it was, if they
It's
could've-
not as bad as what they did to Captain Marvel, though. They turned her into Space Mussolini.
pretty much. And what's worse is and what's worse about Carol Danvers is she was a fun character. Everyone didn't mind the fact that she was at certain points OP as a motherfucker because her personality made up for it. She was a fun character. She was fun. She was easy on the eyes, and she was, at some points, let's be honest, a bit ditzy.
Wasn't she an alcoholic at some point too?
Possibly. I do believe.
I think that was the time in which they tried to give the heroes flaws to make them relatable.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, and then you have the current Captain Marvel, Carl Manvers, who's not fun, not just pure fucking grit, just so masculine. You'd swear to God, Carl Manvers was pretty much pre-op. You know what I mean? Transgender.
Yeah.
Just literally the one panel where Captain Marvel looks like fucking your boy Zach. I'm just saying. I mean, and
That's pretty masculine.
right? And like her cat, Chewbacca. Everyone loved Chewbacca. Why? Because the cat was so important to her as a character. You know what I mean? It was her cat. It wasn't the cat. It was her cat. It was part of who she was. I think it's Jessica, Spider-Woman. I can't remember her name.
Jessica Drew.
Jessica Drew.
So it is Drew? Okay. I was like, nah, Drew's not right. But Jessica Drew, they were friends for the longest time. How many times has Jessica Drew gone undercover in Hydra for Fury? And we never once hated her because we understood she had to make some decisions that were kind of... but at the same time, she knew she was doing what she had to do.
That's the whole point about SJW characters, is that we don't hate them because of their gender of their race. We just hate them because they're shit characters, and they're merely there to push an agenda.
Exactly. And Humble Marty gets 5 points. It's like 5 points for Gryffindor for this. Just because, they also refuse to read another book other than that. So I got to speak their language. Carl Manvers is Justin Bieber with a Valley Girl face, unfortunately.
I'll give them that. At least Brie Larson is a perfect choice for the character because they're both of them are equally insufferable.
And like, and here's the one of the things that drive me nuts. Like, we're talking Captain Marvel. I was talking to a buddy of mine's, husband, and it was one of those, because he's trans, and mind you, only reason why I'm even using these terms is because the dude's like one of my oldest friends. We all know how I feel about these issues. I just talked about it earlier and how it's part of what's causing our society to collapse. But moving on. Dude was talking about how, all these, basically talking bad about those making comments about the new Captain Marvel movie and how they're using trans slurs and this, that, and the other. And it's like, no. This is my fandom. I can honestly say most of us are mad because they took the most hated version of the character, put it up on the big screen, and then made a total Mary Sue of the affair. We'll come to find out that they were talking about something else that was going on that didn't pertain to that. But this is a prime example of what they do, though. You present a valid criticism, like, that's not what we're mad about. Oh, well, we weren't talking about that. La da da da, and run their mouth. And they're hiding behind the shield of these characters. God, no, do you even read comic books? I actually got asked that. You fake fan. Because I said, well, I just want politics removed from my comic books. Because, they have to brigade you as well.
And they will tell you, they will bring up the old Captain America punching Hitler cover. See, politics have always been in comics. Yeah, okay, let me put it this way. I don't want your bullshit politics in my comics. How's that?
It's not even that. It was always very nuanced. And that night, my response to that, every time they say that, I just point out one thing. Yes, it's a little thing called propaganda. Most things put out during World War II and World War I that were of the entertainment variety had some level of propaganda in it because we were in the middle of a major fucking war. Oh, you don't want to talk about that now, do you?
And well, we're at war with the patriarchy now.
Right? But it's one of those things that irritate me about the constant me of the SJWs, because of the fact that they don't understand what they're talking about 99.9% of the time. And when you mention you want your needless politics out of comics have always been political. You fake fan. You stupid motherfucker. I would strangle you right now. If one for one, I wouldn't stop, and two, I would. Even if I got away with it, I'd still be labeled, everything under the sun for doing society a favor. God, I hate these people. And, I'm not one to advocate for violence. I'm really not. I despise violence. Needless violence is exactly that, needless. But the problem is these individuals refuse to listen to reason.
I keep saying that it worries me because they, as you say, they won't listen to reason. There's no possible way of reaching a peaceful solution with them. Mm-hmm. Sooner or later, we're gonna get violent, and that worries me because I don't like violence, as you say.
Yeah, no, like I said, needless violence is needless, but at the same time, when you are left with no ability to and I think it was actually an old expression that goes along the lines of when there's no more ability for discussion, people take up arms or something along the line.
Yeah, I keep saying that. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I keep saying that the things you can talk about are the things you fight about. So the more censorship they exert on people, the less stuff we can rationally discuss, the more the closer we get to violence, to actual violence.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and call 15 minutes now.
Yeah, I'm surprised about how long we went.
Oh,
Or
it's
15,
because
15 minutes until we resort to violence, you mean?
no, no.
Well, normally it would have ended, but I'm not doing my stream tonight, so.
Well, that and the fact that Canales came in late, and I wasn't going to cut
Yeah.
Yeah,
him.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did have a beautiful hot dog. I'll have you know. It was
Hey,
great.
hey, nothing wrong with
You-
that. You came in late. You were doing stuff. I understand. We
I
can.
mean, you've I know you got bronchitis, but you're sounding progressively better as the stream goes. I think it's good for your health.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
no,
progressive.
I'm feeding on your positivity. I'm feeling healthier and stronger now. I have less white hairs on my my head.
But no, it's but no, I completely understand though what you're saying. The my whole point that I try to been pointing out for years to these same brain. It's one okay, the same SJW, and it's simple. It touches on the whole lived experiences earlier. All right, and the way they tend to lash out at white people and the check boxes. When you make a specific group a problem, you are only giving that group every reason to not like you. So when you have a bunch of minorities who are all speaking the suppression dialectic, you are giving them no choice but to look out for their own interests. And come on, it's one of the things I've said for years is the fact that the left, the war on racism was won. All the left had to do was take a knee and stop talking about it. That's
Yeah,
all they had to do.
But that would mean disappearing because the left has only fighting left to do. That's the only reason why they exist.
Well, it's not so much that, and I think it was Tim Pool who mentioned this. He said the reason why the left keeps fighting for equality and fighting against racism and against sexism and this, that, and the other things that were, for all accounts and purposes, a decade ago dead, decade and a half ago dead, is because of the fact that they are all mad because all the fights that they wanted to take up had already been won. 10 years ago, even going into Obama's first term, people, for the most part, were already on board with gay marriage. Whether you're left or right, you were pretty much already on board with gay marriage. You didn't care. Okay, only the most religious really and I'm talking like hyper religious and even then specific sects of, Christianity at the time here in America cared. Only time. All right. Racism, the Chappelle show proved that we were not a racist country because we all shared in the jokes. It didn't matter if it made fun of white people, black people, Asians, Latin, aliens from Reticulous 9. All right, I'm just saying it didn't matter. What mattered was the fact that we were all people, we were all Americans, we were all just laughing about the things that happened in the past that we are trying to prevent from happening again in the future. Then you go through once again 10 years of everything coming back to, well, if you're white you're not right, if you're a man, it's one of those you need not stand, if you're this, if you're that, if you don't have check boxes in the oppression handbook, then you need to just sit there and shut the fuck up, we don't want to talk to you. What do you think's going to happen when they come across people who say things like it's okay to be white, it's okay to be a man, it's okay to be straight, it's okay to be cis, it's okay to be these things that everyone on the other side have been saying it is not okay to be? What did they think was going to happen? They were only going to strengthen those who act and give credibility to those who disagree with these stances, and they didn't want to listen. Yes, I sorry.
It's all right. No, the SJWs are killing everything. They're killing all of us slowly.
Yep.
It's some form of what is it called? Population control.
Here's where I see it going. So, and this is the Christian side of me because I am a devout Christian. So, honestly, it's all in the fact of people aren't going to stop caring anymore. Because you say anything wrong or you do anything wrong, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass because people are just going to people are going to turn on you, trade, or people are going to. If you don't subscribe to the hive mind, they're going to turn you in. And unfortunately, it's going to stop the people who could have done good. It's going to stop them from doing good because now they're being demonized for doing anything.
Mhm.
So
It's the quite frankly, it's the 1984 scenario.
it is. Well, you got to. I mean, it's all. It is. There's a reason why that whole trope exists in that that whole thing exists because unfortunately it's the world that is most likely to come true because you go back to what's the human heart, is it good or is it evil? That's really ultimately each person has to make up that point. Can human beings be good? Sure, yeah, 100%. But unfortunately, the human heart likes to be mostly wicked. You can see throughout history.
It's
You
not
know,
much, and this is where I'm going to push back on you. It's not so much the human heart is inherently wicked. It's the fact that people are pushed. It's one of the things I said when it came to Columbine, and I've been saying this for years, and most people are like, "That's not how it works." No, this is totally how it works. How long of you pushing somebody down, you beating on them, you making their lives a living hell before they and I'm not talking like there are people who go through it and come out the other side. They're not the happiest people in the world. They
Mhm.
got issues, but they get through and get to the other side. But then you have people like the Columbine kids who they just were not strong enough to handle it. And so after so long of them being abused by their peers, they finally said, fuck it, and they decided to do something, get revenge, and they didn't care who got caught in that revenge. They were just going to get as many people as they can because the way they looked at it, where were those other people when they were being tormented, when they were being abused, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, true.
And that's the problem. It's not the human heart. The human heart is the subject of its experiences. It's those it is the individual who instead, because let's be honest, it depends on the person, it depends on the environment, it depends on the circumstances of what made the individual. I mean, yes, one could have stopped Columbine. Enough of those kids, like the other students, stepping in and saying, "Hey, no, not cool. Don't fuck with them. No, you're not. That's not what we should be about." La da 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 da. The other students could have stepped in and stopped it and been like, "Nah, got the come hang out with us after school. We're not going to be dicks to you and things like that." And that could have been the one thing that prevented them from being radicalized in the way they were. But the thing is SJWs, there's no redemption. There's do it our way or the highway. They are those bullies. And the worst part is they're cry bullies. They're crying as they strike you with the shillelagh of intersectionality.
I like that. Hashtag shillelagh of intersectionality.
Are we talking about the Irish baton here?
Hey now.
And I know what a shillelagh is.
Uh-huh.
The
Dude,
shillelagh is what the gray aliens want to put in your butt.
yes. Good.
Oh God.
But but that's the point. And that's what comic books is always about. For most of us, is about being the people that stepped in between the bully and those being bullied.
Yeah.
And these individuals, they don't understand it. And so where our human heart was, I guess you could say, in many ways purified by strong moral characters that came to us within the who came to us through the pages of a comic book. You still have those who, which are SJWs and whatnot, who don't understand that. All they see is skin color, politics, a bunch of people in tights beating up on each other, and everything else is lost in translation because they don't understand. They don't. To them, it's all about that. Once again, the shillelagh of intersectionality. I mean, there's no other way I can put it. That's all they know. And Gorgonite says to you, Chuck, yes and no. The human heart is susceptible to great evil, but is also susceptible to great good. It ain't one-sided.
Agreed.
But all right, dear listener, with that, it's time to do the closing argument or the closing pitches. Be sure to tune in next week, where you get more tales of suspense, tales of intelligence, tales of whole bunch of nuance on the next Meeting of the Minds. All right, Canales, let you start us out.
It's been a pleasure being here. I want you guys to check out my two Indiegogo projects, both the Abductables and Necromancer Tombstone Blues. And back them if you can. The good news about Tombstone Blues is that it's going to be live for 2 months now. We have 59 days left, so you can back both the Abductables and then Necromancer once you get your second paycheck. So yeah, do so, please.
All
Canales,
right.
don't forget your project with what's it called is on pre-order, right? Decimators.
Yeah. Decimators, of course, dude. I have so many things lined up. Yeah, no, go check Decimators. I have to. I told Michael from Wiki that I would fix the cover of issue 3 because it's apparently the lettering is a bit too high. So yeah, go buy Decimators from Wiki. It's apparently being quite a success.
Well, you
just came out, the 4, 5 and 6, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 and 6.
Yeah. Volume 3.
All right, Matt, you are up.
All right, I've got a Kickstarter coming up soon on April 5th. It's to launch a shared universe called the Mythoverse, which is made up of Dan Chikaro's, Adobe Kroger, Brett McGowan's, Changelink, and my own Mythics. And we've been doing everything we can to get the word out. You can find out more through my Twitter account at Matt Trin, where you're obviously going to find their Twitter accounts as I promote it. That's all.
All right, Michael.
Sir. Sure. Yeah, so obviously the biggest thing to promote is the Abductables. It's 52 pages on Indiegogo, funding now. We really want to get that funded before our deadline. So if you like what you hear, please do back the book. Give it pick up a copy. You definitely you're not going to want to miss it. It's a sci-fi action comedy about alien abductions and a big muscly guy beating the crap out of aliens. So what more could you ask for in a comic book, really? And then we had mentioned, I'll plug one more thing. We had mentioned Millennials on here. That is my webcomic. It's kind of a satire of our current political climate. So if you're interested in that, you can check it out on my blog. It's cauldroncomics.blogspot.com. So you can go there and you can read all the the chapters that have been posted so far. You can read it from the beginning. And yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, just follow me on Twitter at Cauldron Comics.
And don't forget, dear listener, in the Abductables, you get toxic masculinity so strong it's lethal.
I love that line. That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
And Spork, you're up.
Real quick, just a little update, guys. Before I say, you guys are up to 2575. Got another backer. So
nice.
Nice.
Awesome.
So, yeah, awesome news. So I think we got to about between this and what's being done over on Ethan's show. It looks like we got, because they just started theirs about an hour ago. So we got 6 backers. So that's pretty awesome. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, man.
And once again, you're still doing better than the Amazing Gators.
That's the most important thing.
I forgot that was a thing.
I can put down that bleach at last.
Yeah, for sure. But anyhow, guys, my name is Chuck. I'm from Sporkman Studios. We go live on March 29th for our relaunch on the Sporkman Goes to Japan Indiegogo. We will be offering pretty much the entire thing is just going to be Sporkman Goes to Japan, because as of right now, you can get the pre-order of Sporkman Conventions, our first comic, at Wicked's website. So that is available for backing. We're also going to have a lot of good goals on our project. We will have a cover featured by Brad Ashworth, who is doing the handyman right now. We have a poster that was done by Killbox83. Every backer who backs the project will get a copy of that poster. And then our colorist will be Ginger Foxy, and our letterer is going to be Jay Ashiro from 01 Publishing. So keep an eye out for that, guys. And then, as always, you can follow me on Sporkman on YouTube and on Twitter, so at Sporkman Studios.
All right.
Awesome.
Ninja.
Yes, I am here.
You are up. Time to
All
give
right.
your closing pitches.
All right, everybody. I am your friendly neighborhood ninja. Sorry I've been a little bit quiet this evening. I have little ninjalinos running around all about. So sometimes I have to mute myself to do the dad thing. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at your ninja friend. Or YouTube. I am your friendly neighborhood ninja. I'm working on a comic right now with Doug Derrick called Psychotron, about a World War III cyborg super soldier who, basically is making his way in the world after the post-apocalypse. So, that's what I'm working on at the moment. Yeah, maybe some other stuff that I'll have for you guys. Be on the lookout for Wanpool right now. That's still going on. Go ahead and join the army of Wan. You guys, go ahead. Check that out. It's on Indiegogo right now. Show some love to everybody out there. Let's, get that love thing going on and more creativity. I feel a little bad about all the drama that's been happening, and I just, want to, make sure that we're still all cool with each other, and everybody just try and show more love to each other,
No, I hate you all.
Moment ruined.
Wait. I hate you. I hate you all. But
yeah,
you're great.
Thank you.
such a beautiful moment. Such a beautiful moment.
Tears.
Exactly.
Yep.
But all right, dear listener. I am the one and only Bob Jones. You can find me on Twitter at Brainiac420. And if you wonder why I'm doing this 1930s, quite frankly, old announcer theme, you should tune in next week and the following week and every week after for the announcement as to why Why is I doing the announcer voice so suddenly? And with that, dear listener, I will bid you adieu.